Hello? Hello? Microphone working? Hello, hello. Wow, this is weird. There's no way to change the settings on this. Whatever the deal is it allowing me, I can see little beep-bop, bleep-bop green beans. Well, now, isn't that interesting? Isn't that interesting? Yeah, it's not showing up the little green bars down here. What the hell do I have to say that, they're going to shut me off? I mean, they flat out shut my microphone off. I must have got on somebody's list. Anytime I start getting into a little bit of something like, okay, then my sound went off. Wow, that's really, 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 really interesting. Yeah, Wade, I was went into that other stream thing that you all couldn't hear me because it allows me to invite people to chat, right? So I was like, okay, let me try this out here. And maybe, if you came on, I was going to be able to invite you in and see if we could do the old Hangout Live thing, right? Well, then, no sound. And then the last time I'm using the YouTube, go live now camera delete thingy, whatever, and I haven't had trouble with it before, but I say that I haven't had anybody listening on the other end to tell me whether the sound was on or not. So maybe I should go back and re-listen to my vids, see if there's even any sound on them. Wow. I know I've been talking some shit, and if anybody has waded, anybody who's been able to muscle their way through the end of 2 or 3 or 4 hours of me, and still, be awake. I was like, okay, goodness gracious. I got another computer upstairs, and it's got a cracked screen, and I've been, messing around thinking I should bring it down here. And I used to hook it up to my television set, and so that I could, surf online kind of thing. But the way I got my living room arranged at the moment, it's a little difficult. So, but anyway, so, but I'm going to have a monitor. If I'm going to try to do this more often, I'm going to have a monitor so I can do some, testing and making sure that folks can hear me correctly. And, what the hell was I talking about? Why would they shut my sound off? And I got a super duper party pooper kind of DSL line here, man. I pay over $100 a month for just having it, and I don't think I've had issues. Why would they turn off my microphone? Because I'm talking shit, man. I'll have to just delete this video after a while. Yeah, I don't like to start off like this and be cussing and yakking and blah, blah, and blah, blah, blah. What a weird couple of days, though. Maybe I will leave it up. Who knows? I know that the last couple of days has been deadgum strange just in general. I've been hanging out with stuff like, Wade, I've hung out with a couple of, in a couple of chats and stuff. And there is just weirdness going on, by golly, everywhere, man. I mean, to the point where it's really kind of getting creepy, And the Hawaii thing, but now it's like, oh, well, it's going to go this way. Well, it ain't. It's not slowing down. And I listened to Rex today along with Cliff High. And I highly respect Cliff High. I do. Now, he's a little weird on some stuff, but he's right on the money with some other. And he was talking about all of those things which show that the earth is expanding, that we're getting juice from outer space. It's coming around the sun from the galaxy, and even the extra photons, protons, etc., gamma rays coming are coming around our already depleted magnetosphere and hitting us from the backside, and also coming up from Antarctica. And I'm like, that's the information that I've been getting. So he summed it up really nice. And I was like, right on, Cliff. Everybody else is talking, oh, Planet X and oh, Planet 9 and oh, this and that. There's stuff out there. I don't doubt it. But that's not what's causing the Earth problems. It's not that, oh, this planet was perturbed and that one's this, and it's a dark star you can't see. There's so much stuff in our solar system right now they don't want to tell us about. Oh, my God. Watch Suspicious Observers today. He's got a zoomed in shot on the bottom right quadrant of the sun. He's now, it's one of them giant 3 times, 4 times bigger than Jupiter deals. And you can see the outline of it like this far off of the sun. And God bless Ben Davidson. He does a good job and he studies and everything. But he called that big giant spaceship a coronal cavity. And you can see the coronal cavity being pushed off into space. And when it left, I'm sorry, I've seen stuff come off the sun and this and that and the other thing. They don't make perfect circles that keep going. And they're calling them, I wrote it down, coronal cavity. I busted out laughing. I had to play it over again. In fact, I was going to show, I don't want to pick on Ben. I don't. Because he's trying to be credible. And if he says that was a spaceship, well, then his credibility just goes down like this and he loses all his funding. I get it. But to call it he would have been better off not to say anything, but to call it a coronal cavity. I can't believe it. They have come up with a name for the spaceships who come in to get a little bit of plasma and leave. They're calling them coronal cavities. You're kidding. You're kidding. Nope. That's how weird our planet is, God. That's how weird science is, God. And Suspicious Observers is supposed to be showing us, oh, look, they don't tell you all of this. He ain't telling us neither. But he can't speak spaceships. I get it. He's monetized. He's got one kid and another on the way or something like that. And it's like, well, okay. But he just should have just ignored it. He just should have said nothing instead of saying something stupid like coronal cavity. Now, maybe he said it. I'm getting all over him, ain't I? They're not telling us. One of the last things is we almost have 900 exoplanets, they're calling them. And if you look at this white paper here and you go over there and you check out that and you read something here, well, we found 2 or 3 more objects the other day. And I can't pull it up, but somewhere there were, maybe it's in satellites. Let me see if I can, New Earth. It was satellites in space that might come in. And they were and one of them was supposed to hit off the edge of, was it Africa or South America? But anyway, it was coming up this way from under the pole, and there was one of these recently with these fireballs these last couple of days. I actually believe if it was one of these satellites that was projected to drop and come into the atmosphere. It's listed, and I don't have the time now. I'll find it, but it's out there on the internet. It's like JPL or satellites and Landsat. They're tracking all. It's like, you know, type in tracking satellites or something like that. But yes, we definitely are, and that's one of the things that Cliff High brought up. I've been agreeing with this for years. In the 1990s, they told us that in the next 30 years, we're going to enter a very different, dense section of space. We're here, you know. Now, they want to say it's Planet X. Oh, Planet X is dragging all this debris. I never did buy that. Now, does Planet X have a couple of moons or a little something? Okay. Now, if it were a dwarf star, very dense, and it had a couple of planets rotating around it, we would have seen it. I'm sorry. The Lord, amateur astronomers would have seen it. That's why all these exoplanets are being found out, because so many amateurs have really good telescopes. A friend of mine, spoke to him actually yesterday morning. I was up all night speaking to him on the phone. He's got a really nice telescope. He said I could bring back out here to the house and use. And it's on a mount. It's electric. So when you point it at something, it'll track it. Oh, man, it's a nice telescope. And it has software to go with it. And he lives in the city, and they don't bring it out. And I'm like, dude, can I bring that back out here and use it? And he was like, yeah. As soon as I get back from Tennessee, we'll make arrangements. So I'm gonna get me a damn nice telescope back out here again, you know. I've got 2 or 3, but they're just little 3.5 inch, and you know, they're really only good for moon gazing. But you can go to some of these other, like Keck Observatory on the Hawaiian Islands, and there's a couple of them now, and you can go and look at some of their live feeds and what, you know, some of their past things, what they've looked at in the sky. Amazing what you see. You know, they're not telling us. Wade, it depends on if nobody can see the thing. It says, what do you think is in our solar system? To anybody who might watch this if I don't delete it. I think that it depends on what you mean by solar system, how far out you want to go, because they're talking about the Kuiper Belt. I was always taught it was Kuiper Belt. They call it Cooper, Keeper, blah, blah. Okay, the belt way out there. Now, about 5 or 6 years ago, the Kuiper Belt all of a sudden got more Kuiper. And the Galactics said that there were going to be, get this, I didn't say it, I'm just repeating, that there was going to be 1 million spaceships coming into our solar system area, because the entire solar system is ascending. And this is an outpost stronghold for the Draco. And that when we started exploding nuclear weapons, it sent out shockwaves to other universes, all of the galaxies across our universe. Immense. And when it did, it rang a bell that ETs heard everywhere. At the same point, Mother Earth sent out a signal. God help me, these people are crazy. Well, we were going to go through this system change and fluctuation, all this other good stuff anyway. But us human beings have not been helping matters at all. I got to stretch. Holy mackerel there, Andy. But so, with that said, there are 820 some odd new exoplanets. And these things might be as big as a rock. But if you go out there and look for near Earth objects and see all these rocks and things floating around us and zipping by and doing this thing, there are thousands of things in our solar system. And like what Cliff High said today, I keep dropping his name, but I consider his wisdom and his age being about my age, and what we've seen, what we've learned, things that we have he's into a martial arts kind of meditation. I'm not quite there, but I meditate. So there are a lot of similarities between us in that respect. But as he and a lot of other people have stated, the solar system is moving. The sun is actually like a comet, and we're trailing behind this thing, you know? Really, we are. I mean, if this is the sun, then we're twirling. It's going through the universe like this, and we're rotate. We're not equal with the sun because we're being pulled along behind it. And as we travel through space, this being the sun, we're picking up stuff. So if we could see where the sun was going, and they do know which way we're headed, sort of thing. You know, we're coming out of Pisces and moving into Aquarius, and then something about Taurus, the bull. I can't remember that part, but to the point, they are aware that our whole solar system is moving through the universe. Now, they don't really tell folks that. They just say, oh, we're out here in space and everything is static. Even when you go like to Stellarium and some of these, it shows all the planets in a flat plane. That's a lie. But it would be hard for people to comprehend if, you know, here's the sun. Mercury is probably the closest, and it would be the closest to the equator. Now, Venus being further out would be dropped down a little bit because it's lagging behind. Earth is still a little further down from the equator of the sun, and we're being dragged along. So the further out you go, Jupiter is going to be down here and nowhere near the equator of the sun. And Uranus, Neptune, blah, blah, blah. So the sun is like a comet, is dragging all of us along with it. But as we go through the universe and our galaxy, we're picking up stuff. And there are all kinds of rocks. You know, people say, oh, there's nothing in space. Go check out on the web, NEOs, near Earth objects. And some of them, they got pictures of these things tumbling. Some of them look like peanuts. Some of them are pretty big. Some of them look like you live on them. I mean, yeah. But the point to that matter is there is so much out there, really. And then like the thing that was up against the sun today, it's 5 times bigger than Jupiter, okay? Jupiter, Saturn, throw all the planets in. This thing was bigger. And poor old guy was trying to tell us it's a cavity thingy. What? Coronal cavity. It's a planet-sized spaceship, for goodness sake. It came into the sun, it got some plasma, filled itself up, and you could see it release. Gas does not create a perfect circle and stay like a bubble like that. I mean, I'm sorry. But it's hard for people to wrap their heads around the fact that there are spaceships out there. You know, go look at, you know, Lasco, and there's a YouTube video guy that his name is Wire I Read. And he goes out there every couple of days and he takes 1.5 minutes worth of video, and that's his YouTube channel. That's all he does. He takes videos of the sun and puts it out there. Didn't even, you know, this is just Lasco. This is, you know, Cora. This is the. That's all he does. But if I can't get to the site to do that, I can go to his YouTube channel and look at what's going on the sun, replay it, blah, 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 and I don't get a hang up. And it's amazing. There are thousands of ships every other day just zipping by the sun in formation, for goodness sake. You know what I'm saying? I mean, you know, there's 6 of them, and they show up over here, and then the next frame, they're like still in position, mostly, but they're a gazillion miles away from where you saw them in the previous frame. Oh, that cluster right there that's traveling. The next thing I'm going to try to figure out is, when you see the sun as big as it is on Cora or Lasco or something like that, a blip on this side of the sun and then showing up over here, and you can check by the timestamp. And my curiosity is like, how far is that? And I'm sure that we could calculate how fast that starship or whatever it is moving, or did move, or whatever. But when you got a group of 3 to 5 to 7, I've seen as many as 12 over here to be here and literally sit there and only move slightly for one more frame, and then half of them are off the frame. So astonishing things in our solar system. You write something else and I can't see. Yes, I listen to Planet X News. Yes. And I'm not saying that I don't believe them, but some of the stuff is what I can't get my head around is that we can't see it. I don't get it. It cannot be big enough to tilt the entire solar system. And that's what they're trying to tell us now. That Planet X and the star and it has tilted the entire solar system 5 to 10 degrees. And they're trying to blame that on our dual star thingy, black dwarf, whatever. Now, I do agree that we probably do have a silent twin. However, I think the silent twin's a lot farther out there than, oh, it's going to swing in between. I don't think so. If a star was like that, et cetera, I just don't think it's going to come passing between the planets. I don't. I'm sorry. I can't get that one to sink in. You know, we would see it. We would see it. And there's too much of that. Now, next question. What do you think of the physicist theories? She is more, I'm curious, because she's supposed to be on tomorrow night with R. Wayne, as to what her remarks are going to be about about the coronal cavity, that because she has discussed them before, and she's like, those have got to be spaceships. Now, what I don't agree is she believes and has said several times, and I just like tongue in cheek, okay, they're stealing the plasma from the sun and making our sun weaker. They're taking plasma, but it's not making our sun weaker. No, our sun's going through its own transformation. And if anything, these entities that back up to it might actually be giving it some juice. Okay. So it can literally transfer both ways. So of all the things that Dr. Albers has said, it's that these things, spaceships or whatever, are draining our sun. There's just way too much energy there. You know, what people don't understand is, and the Galactics have stated this over and over for years, and if you look at the coronal holes in the right angstrom, where you can really see, if you zoom in to the edge of there, you can see inside in what looks like the backside of the inside of the sun. The galactics have been saying that the sun is hollow and it is a portal to other suns. When that coronal cavity showed up next to the sun, I seen one about a week ago. It was literally twice as big as the one that's on the screen from yesterday. Yes, the sun is weaker, but it's a totally different reason. It's not because aliens are stealing the power from it. That's not it. It's going through its own changes. So that's my point. If anything, they might be trying to keep the sun alive for us. They're not trying to destroy it or destroy us or run it out. That's my only difference with her. Now, what physicists today need to do, and Dr. Albers is pushing it because of what's his name? I can't think of his name right now. And is the fact that I say we as a society and scientists, engineers, we're thinking in our terms. Well, that can't happen because the sun's hot or this or that or da or da. But we don't know that we are so babies in science, because one of the things that I learned recently, this is just an aside, Scott, thank you very much. I agree with Scott on a lot. I do, and the few things are like, well, I just can't buy into that yet. I need more proof. I'm still open. I haven't said no, I think you're full of BS. But when I just don't agree with they're stealing the sun's energy and making it weak. I don't know. There's a bigger thing going on here. And that's what needs to, the collective don't want to think about ET. They don't. Oh, well, flying saucers, but why are they here? Why so many? Why is all this stuff going on right now about full disclosure and people pushing this? Why am I sitting here talking about this? Because they told me I had to, okay? I mean, people waking up, and we have to discuss this. So they're trying to, oh, well, that's an exoplanet, and this is this, and that is that. They're trying to explain this with the science that's here. And we can't explain it with the science that we know. We have to expand our knowledge and awareness of there are things that are just different. Now, my example of this is they have learned to, on ships, in order to get ships to move faster in the water. A couple of months ago, I think it was John Lear on Project Camelot, and he was like, "Well, haven't you noticed that there's like, some of these ships, leave Hawaii and they're in China in a day and a half or something? How'd they get there that fast?" What they have done is they have been able to put a layer of a special kind of paint on the ships. And then by doing so, they can, yes, she thinks they're stellar cores, and that's where I disagree. No, stellar cores wouldn't be hidden. Those, the one that the coronal cavity thing on the video today, it's perfectly round. And if it was a stellar core, you would be able to see its mass. This thing it's shielded. It's cloaked. You can see the outline of it because of the rays of the sun going around it. If it were a stellar core, you wouldn't be able to like see through it. It wouldn't be masked. You would be able to see it, not just around it. That's my point of view. So in my disagreement with folks about some of how they're explaining things out, they're trying to use science now that doesn't fit the equation. And they're trying to figure it out with stuff that's here. And the biggest thing that folks need to understand is that the picture is so much different. It really is. It is so much different. The spaceships that are out there, folks are just going to have to realize that, yeah, there are really big, giant things out there, and that our science cannot explain. Oh, to finish off on the paint on ships, they've been able to put a charge, an electrical charge, onto the hull of the ship. And because there is an electric type current on the hull of the ship, it actually spreads the water before the ship gets there. So instead of going 20, 30 knots in the water, they're able to do 75 on the water and book. You know, they tell all the sailors to go down below, or in rough water, when actually they're, well, they're cutting through the water like lickety split. And so, how do they get to the Mediterranean so quickly? It used to take a week. Now they're there in a couple of days. They're across the Atlantic. Boom. Submarines in one spot and out the other kind of deal. Don't you think? Don't you think they would be doctoring the images we are seeing from the satellites? They are in control of them. Yeah, I do believe so. And sometimes there are things that are missing because you'll miss like a section, or if you watch the timestamp down below, it will have missed a frame. What was in that frame? It didn't take one, or, sometimes they come in all distorted. That's how they take care of that. But some of these things, they just, like this coronal cavity business, they expect people to believe that. That's the story that Mr. Ben is putting out. And now he might believe that. And I'm not trying to put him down. My point is that I'm already thinking out of the box, but other folks need to get out this box. And they need to realize that there are fantastical things. And that's what they can't wrap their head around. They can't wrap their head around the fact that Ceres looks like the Death Star on Star Wars. My goodness gracious, it was modeled after that, for goodness sake. If you do due diligence and dig in the rabbit hole, you'll find out that Gene Roddenberry hung out with all them guys back in the day. They were giving him the ideas, just like I've spoke about the movies. The TV series One Step Beyond and different things on black and white TV in the 50s. They were sponsored. It says in the credits, they were sponsored by the science foundations. Science foundations were giving them material and scientific knowledge in there to create a science fiction show. So they've known about this stuff forever. No, they're not telling us. And the radio signals, something was made about the other day about, if someone sent us a signal from 40 light years away, it would take 40 years. And then if we sent something back, it would take 80 years. Well, but in the quantum, if you know what you're doing, thought is instant. So if you know how to send messages in a quantum way, then guess what? It's almost instant. So 40 light years is a couple of seconds away. But you see, folks can't get out of, and they won't let us think out of that box. That they're still trying to tell us that the speed of light is constant. And when I found out that they've been lying to us ever since Einstein blurted it out of his mouth, it's an average. It's not a constant. Not at all. But Neil deGrasse Tyson and all these people get paid big bucks. They continue the lie. Speed of light is constant. No, it's not. You know, speed of light can actually be slowed down because it is a particle and a wave. So they've already proven that you can kind of slow it down in certain circumstances. In other circumstances, you can speed light up. So, but 40 years away, 40 light years away, it would take 40 years for it to get there and then 40 years back. Well, how do we know it took 40 years for them to send the message if we're picking it up? If we're sending it analog, you're right. It's going to take a while to get there. But from the science out of the box, thinking into the quantum, if you take into consideration, I was speaking about it in another video. It might have been on YouTube. I mean, on Facebook. I did a Facebook Live, but has to do with positive thought and this and that and the other thing. I mean, you know, somebody in need, you know, somebody like was in a crash and then, you know, the brother, sister, mother, father, like, oh my God, something happened, and find out at the exact same time. Me and my granny used to do it all the time before she passed away. She would be calling me and I'd pick up the phone and go, hello, Grandma. And I'd already called her back. And she'd go, who is this? Oh, David, that's you, isn't it? Yes, it's very exciting to be alive. But the thing is that they don't want to take into consideration that mind reading, thought control, this, that, and that. They can't tell that to the general public, even though they've been using remote viewing since the 50s, or actually before that. During World War II, it's come out that they had people, you know, who were trying to remote view where Hitler and the bunker looked like and everything. I mean, you know, oh, but this is all crazy. No, this is MK Ultra. This is, you know, secret, quiet, black, dark, you know, government projects, whatever. But those of us on the outside who've never been involved in anything like that, like for me, I've been able to communicate with folks. I had a friend of mine who was born literally 2 days before me, and not in the same place or anything. He was born in Georgia. I was born in Ohio, but 2 days. We could work together and just look at one another, never say a word. If he needed a hammer, I would reach over and grab it, and he'd turn and look at me. And because he was thinking, I need to ask David for the hammer, I picked up his vibes, would have the hammer ready, and when he turned to ask me, all he could do was smile. And I'd hand it to him. We could work for days and never say a word, passing tools, lift this up. I'd go to point, and he'd just go like this because he already knew. It was quantum between us. There are other people that I've had, not a lot, but there are, like my granny. We were so connected, and that was long before anybody ever talked about this kind of stuff, you know, in the late 60s, early 70s, and she died in the early 80s. But to the point, though, while she was alive, we were connected like two peas in a pod on the quantum. So I've understood this for a long time. I've been trying to explain it to other people to the point where I just gave up. But now it's time that the science is catching up to prove what I've been trying to explain. Ooh, there's a moon through there. Wowzers. Wonder which way it's facing tonight. It's really orange out there. The moon is. Oh my goodness. I mean, it's, whoa, it's really, really yellow orange. Wow. That's interesting. But see, that's what I mean. I can sit here in this chair, and with these huge windows I got in my house, I can look out and go, I can see the moon from here. So I know if I can't see the moon or it's lower or higher, I know that things are changing. So, but anyway, with the things that psychic scientists were studying in Russia in the 40s, 50s, 60s, and they're still doing it. They take it literally, and they tell the rest of the scientists it's not a secret. These folks do this. It's well known. It's spoken about. It's discussed in circles. It's not this, oh, it's a secret. I can't talk about this. It ain't that. So we in America have got to catch up. I mean, he's been telling people on live television in Russia about space beings, about, other technologies. One of the reasons why Putin is not scared of us is because he's got alien technology. They've already proven it to our Navy. It's just been really hush-hush. There were several ships over in the Med that they shut everything off on them things. Shut them off. All the electronics and all this stuff. Our Navy has got to be some of the dumbest blokes in the world. To rely on a joystick to turn a ship, they should go back to hydraulics. And one of the things that the Russians have done, things are still done with hydraulics and things, because if they get a short in the airplane or their sub, they can still move. If they get a short in the computer on an American anything, it's dead in the water. Dummies. There should be some things that should literally remain mechanical, period. It should not be the result of a servo motor attached to a battery. Wrong. I've worked on machines and electronic things mess up. If the machine is mechanical, for example, I worked with dies, and these are boom, 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 stamping things out all the time. Every boom, just like this all day long. Boom, 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 boom. As soon as they put an electric eye on something, it would quit. They'd have problems. So the more we stayed simple mechanics, the longer, the faster these machines would run without any maintenance, without any downtime. And when you're in manufacturing, downtime costs you big bucks. So, but some of this technology, if you can electrify the outside of a ship, but it only takes a little bit of something, that's different. But if you're relying on a joystick in the front cockpit to guide the ship, and you don't have a backup system, no wonder our Navy has, been shut down in the water by EMP pulses, both from the Chinese and from the Russians. Neither one of them are scared of us. I've been questioning, why does Trump want all this extra money for the military? Now, he's trying his best to keep us out of war. He's done a pretty good job. Why does he need all this money? It's because we're outdated. And the Russians have got this technology, and the Chinese have got pretty much the same. And we're still in the Stone Ages. Even though they're telling folks, oh, look at this fast frigate. And it's, it don't even have any windows in it, we can see through the thing with radar, all that. But as soon as the power goes out, you're dead in the water. You can't even paddle the damn thing. It's stupid. The Russians, the Chinese, they got their electronic stuff, but they got their basics that stays mechanical. The fewer the parts, the better. The longer it'll run. Somebody asked a question the other day. He was like, the Russians lost a lot of people in World War II. And the Western Front, Germany almost had them. And, because he really wasn't worried about what was going to come across from the sea, because we had to come in boats and land and blah, blah, blah. So, but Hitler was worried about the Russians because they were on land. Okay, and they could just keep coming. So they sent all those beautiful German Panzer tanks out into the Russian front. And when it got real cold, they would run. Now they could blow up 3 or 4 of the Russian tanks. The Russian tanks were just little bulky, blah, 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 things. But the thing is, what happened was Russia built them, you know, really dirt cheap, really quick, really easy, and they built a bunch of them. And what they found out was they could take a hit here or there, blah, 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 and sometimes they could be repaired. If a German Panzer was hit, there were so many moving parts, they couldn't salvage the tank. So the Russians, yeah, okay, you might blow it up, but the next tank that comes along, if he needs a part, they were swapping around and they were keeping it going. The reason the Russians won the Western Front was because their tanks were more simple. The Panzers were like Mercedes-Benz, but if it got a glitch, it wouldn't go anywhere. And so I mean, you know, I went through this. I had a friend of mine who was a colonel in the Army. He was the editor-in-chief of all of the Army, Navy, and the Marine manuals during World War II. All of them. He had a copy of this manual. He'd pull it off the shelf. Like, oh, look at this. If I write this, you know, we'd print off 10,000 of these, and then we'd catch a thing. So we used to sit there and get drunk on scotch, and he would tell me old war stories and how he did. I mean, he was a full bird colonel, you know, and he was this person. He taught history, you know, especially World War II. Blah, blah, blah. He taught history at a university. Very bright man. Very courageous man, too. So he would tell me things. He goes, you know, them Germans, boy, those Panzers, but a Sherman tank was easier. But he said, did you know that a Sherman tank could only go like 30 miles before the tracks had to be replaced? He goes, man, he said, that people don't realize how many we'd have to truck in the tank treads because the tanks would get so far before, and the treads would break because they were so frail. And he goes, now the Panzer's treads lasted longer, but one grenade would put them out of business. Now he said, but you know, the range and the gunpowder, he said, all that was superior. But once you knock, you know, the tread off a tank, it ain't going nowhere. So he would give me all this inside information from what he knew, because he literally wrote the manuals on these things and was the editor-in-chief of all. Unbelievable the things he would sit and tell me. And, you know, it's like, well, it's declassified now. I don't have to worry about telling you, it's, you know, these are all mine. So, but he would get drunk and tell me some stuff. And I'm like, you know, I've never heard that before. Well, that's okay. You're not going to tell anybody. Well, and it's true. Who was I going to tell about this, you know, old bird colonel sitting in his 80s, you know, getting drunk in his lounge chair, you know? But to the point, though, that's how I know some inside things. I've worked for older folk who were in things. I was their gardener, their carpenter, their handyman, and they would bring me in and sit down and have lunch for an hour, pay me for lunch and give me lunch, and then tell me these wonderful war stories. So the things that are hidden, even those things that were supposedly like everybody knew back in the day, it was only known to a certain portion of the Army or Navy or Air Force or Marines. And that after the war, because it was just used in this one particular instance, it just got kind of brought back into the Army, Navy, whatever, and expounded upon. So it went dark. So they did this or that or this or that. Oh, okay, fine. All right. But down to the point, though, it was declassified in the 40s, but they reclassified it because they decided to modify it. And I'm talking about different ways of being able to heat sensors, different types of rockets and incendiary bombs and stuff like that. Like, yeah, you know, there were women in the United States who were building the bombs to send overseas, you know, but they didn't know what they were doing. So, but after things happened, all of the details and all of this and that, the things that were really useful were gathered up and kept. The rest of it was put on the shelf and the colonel could talk about it. Once in a while, he'd slip, though. So now, what does this mean? It means that Trump is about to show us some stuff, and he dropped another thing in a speech here just the other day about new technology coming out. In fact, on the White House Twitter page or something like that, they've actually stated that Trump has plans for new energy devices and new da 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 da. I think there were 3, 4, 5 different areas that were listed by the White House. Okay. And we were told about a year ago that Trump, because of his uncle having collected all of the Tesla technology, etc., that by this summer, if everything worked out, they were going to start rolling these things out. And so Cliff High and some other folks, Drake and this and that, blah, blah, little hints have been dropped in conversations. Well, they say that blah, 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 maybe by the summer. Well, now it's on the White House Twitter page. Yes, Trump's uncle knew Tesla, and he was the one that took all the stuff out of the thing. Yeah, absolutely. So with that said, they're saying on the White House Twitter thingy page, this is what they intend to do in this coming weeks or so. Exactly what a lot of us are like, well, insiders say that Trump's got the thing and his uncle and blah, blah, blah. Now all of a sudden it's on the White House thing. Oh, interesting. So what other underground things that were told to us are now coming out to light? I just saying, those naysayers about the Q thing today, there was a new Q drop after all this time, and that it was stated that it had to go dark because, and I understand that there's a lot of stuff going on. The thing in Arizona today with them finding the camp and little kids, and oh my God, it is so horrible. And I have seen the remnants of some of that stuff. And I don't even want to go there, but if I can help to stop someone who has done something like that, I mean, I almost killed a person who was molesting my wife at the time, cousin. It was an inter-family thing. And I told him, I said, if I hear, I said, I will kill you myself and drag your ass in the swamp, and no one will ever find your body. And as far as I know, because I had the word out to the other nephews and nieces, if your uncle, blah, blah, you tell me, I have some friends, we're going to take care of him. He didn't. Now, he didn't with the family. Now, I don't mean he didn't find somebody else to diddle with, but he's dead now, so we don't have to worry about that. An odd thing, they found him dead in his trailer, and nobody'd seen him for a couple of days, and they went and knocked on his door, smelled the bad thing, and called the cops, and there he was, dead, and they never said why. They just kind of like closed the trailer down, and yuck, 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 yuck. So, I've threatened several people who were pedophiles or tried to or whatever. And I mean, had one gentleman by the throat choking him. And I said, the only reason I'm not going to kill you now is because I haven't figured out where to put your body at the moment. But I said, I know where you live. I know how to get in your house. And he's dead too, by the way. So, but to the point, I made sure, and I said, Mr. Crosby, do you, and look at me, and I had my face right up against his nose. I'm going to rip your. He left some folks alone. Now, I don't like to do that, but I know that in a previous life, I must have ripped people's guts out. I mean, I know from some of the things I've done on my own for looking into my back history of who I was in a previous life, There were things that I did here on this property 100 and some years ago that I'm just horrified about, and I've had to make amends about my karma, why I am here on this piece of dirt right here. So, but in this life, I've shot rabbits and cleaned them and things, and I'm not a killer. My grandfather was a butcher. My dad was a meat cutter for 25 years. So I've been around this kind of thing, but to kill an animal, gut it, drain it, skin it, and all that, I can do it, but I don't like it at all. I mean, I just don't like it. Now, if I had to, okay, but I don't like it. I'd rather look for vegetables than to kill a rabbit. I mean, anyway. So Trump's coming out with some stuff. There are other things in the works coming out. The ETs have quite frankly said, yeah, there's some big things. There are rumblings coming out of Germany. Some of it is about the med beds. And all of this needs funding. Part of the deal was supposed to be is that Nasara and the money swap and getting rid of the Fed was going to be able to put people to work here in the United States, and that, but we need money to fund it, to build it, to buy steel, blah 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 blah, and that's all true until we get into a better system. So the reason the tariffs on the metals, as I've stated before, other countries don't make metal like the United States does. We are the king daddy of making metals. As a machinist and an engineer, metal from other countries does not compare. Why is Trump doing this? It's because their quality of metal sucks. That's the truth. I mean, I hate to say it, but it sucks. I've made stories on this. I've discussed it. It sucks. So Trump's putting a tariff on this stuff, not to piss them off. No, either you make good metal and you do a better job and you give it to us. They were dumping steel on us. I mean, we couldn't compete. And a couple of years ago, there was a big thing going on, and I was broke. I was having issues with my Social Security money and all this stuff. So with old cars and this, that, and the other thing, and things I've collected and what people were giving me, I started collecting metal. And I mean, I made thousands of dollars myself. And at 9 cents a pound, I made thousands of dollars selling steel and scrap metal. Now, here's the thing. Guess where it went? China. China was buying up all of the steel that we could collect. And at the time, it even went up to like 11 or 12 cents for scrap, which is like, it was like 2 or 3 cents. It's 11 cents. Now, aluminum at the time was getting 45, 50 cents a pound. Okay. The copper was like, I don't know, $2.30, $2.45 for like number 2. Number 1 was almost $3 a pound. Oh my God, people were stealing copper out of houses, breaking in while folks were on vacation and ripping the walls out of copper. Unbelievable. All of a sudden, it was like I went in one day and the prices were up here. I went in a week later, I'm collecting, doing my thing, and I go into the junkyard and the guy's like, it's 5 cents a pound. It was half what it had been a week earlier. Aluminum went from 45 cents a pound to 25 cents a pound in 2 weeks. China said, okay, we got enough. Now, what did it do to America? They collected every bit of scrap they could find around here. People were so poor and so doing this thing. I mean, the business of scrap metal, people were quitting other jobs to go into scrap metal. Now that they collected all the scrap metal guys went out of business. There's only 1 or 2 left. And the other thing is that we as Americans, if we needed to get steel, now we got to dig it out of the ground. We can't just go get some old cars and stuff because we done scrunched them up and sent them overseas. I look around down here in South Georgia. There used to be old cars here, there, this, that. I mean, there still are, but not the way it was 5 years ago. The aluminum cans, this, that, all gone. I mean, I was stripping everything I could find because I was starving to death. I didn't have any money. I hadn't gotten my stuff together here, right? Social Security was messing with my pay, blah, blah, blah. So now I'm more stable in my situation, but to the point though, all that metal is gone from around here. All is gone. Now, what we do need to do is, yeah, they're still steel and copper, don't get me wrong, but the price isn't as high. And they're really careful. I mean, you got to give them your driver's license and your this and your that. You know, I mean, they're really strict about that. Now you can throw in aluminum cans and all that you want to, but if it's copper, you have to give them your driver's license. And then I heard that the reason they were going to go even one step further, I'd quit taking metal in by this time, you know. And I was like, man, oh, never mind. So being a metallurgist and a machinist, I've always wanted to set up my own foundry here. My grandfather on the Knoll side, he worked in a foundry all his life, pouring steel, metal, and blah, blah, blah. And I've always wanted to do my own casting here. And several old machinist friends of mine, one gentleman rides old motorcycles. And here there's a whole bunch of folks that have old Ducati parts and stuff like that you can't find anymore. And people have been stripping things, and they need a new brake handle or something for an old motorcycle. And so we were in the process of building a small kiln type thing to make metal parts out of old broken motorcycle parts, car parts, whatever the parts. One gentleman was, there are a lot of old houses down here in South Georgia. And, you know, the old Victorian homes and things like that. Some of these homes were built just before the Civil War, but were so far south that the Northerners didn't get them until after the war was over. And then they came in and took over. And then the carpetbaggers came in. But so we were going to set up a kiln and a foundry right here on my property here. And we both got hurt. We both got sick, and that's gone. But to the point, the metal and stuff that I've got now, I ain't giving it away. I'm not trying. I'm on because I'm still hoping for one of these days I'm gonna be able to get that kiln fixed and going. So the other thing is that unless my country needs that, nope. Because like I said, it was all going to China. I mean, the ships, they're leaving empty containers, but taking loads and cars and back to China so they can make stuff and send it back to us. Just didn't really make any sense. So now what's going on with the volcano? I'm hoping that the volcano that went off in Guatemala doesn't get worse, because what's sort of being told is that one and the one up at Mexico City, there's one in between Fuego and the one at Mexico City. There's a bunch of them in there, but there's one that's been spouting off every once in a while. And there's another one further south of Guatemala and north of Panama. There's a whole string of volcanoes in there. And the galactic information is that they're trying to keep the Earth from overheating. Now, CERN has been running full tilt. And if you take some of they've been flying around at 13 to 14 tera electron volts. They cranked up about a month ago, and up and down, up and down, up and down. But the time the volcano started, CERN had also cranked up full. And even Cliff High brought this up. He said, you know, He said they crank CERN up, and he goes, you know, the volcano's one thing. He said, but because they're using the magnet, it's heating up the core more than it should. And even if they were thinking, well, maybe we can help this out by, you know, putting a magnetic shield around the Earth, whatever they think they're trying to do. When CERN cranks up, all volcanoes and everything around the world go crazy. It's been proven. You can go back through the list. Guess what? Hawaii's going off big time. The Earth doesn't need any help, and CERN ain't helping. It's making the situation worse. But nobody can go up and shut the switch off. Now, ET said it wasn't going to run again, and it is back up and running full speed. So ET's lying to us on that one. Oh, they can't get it to run to keep shutting down. Well, then how come they ran for a full damn day at 14 TV, you know? Okay. All right. One day at a time kind of deal. So I'm going to quit this with prayers, but folks, you need to start paying attention. Really, 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 really. And one thing I'll say, if anybody else watches this, you need to start practicing now. One thing that Creator gave me the message is that, you know, when back in the day in 18, 17, 16, 1500s, back then in America, now I've learned this through Native American studies and my own history, past, etc. Natives used to be able to just take off on a trot, and they could run 20 miles and back in a day. Now, they didn't carry water bottles. They weren't worried about hydration. They weren't carrying packs of food and MREs. They went there and they came back. A lot of them on foot. Now, when I was up in Tennessee and Western North Carolina, up around Boone, I studied, I almost bought a house up there in Tennessee on the other side of the mountains from Boone. And I was up there talking with the locals and they used to say, you know, Daniel, back in the day, because the house I was going to buy was an old, it was built in the early 1800s, and it was a, yeah, that one over in Madagascar. Yep, that one's going to go 6,000 years. It's been quiet. But so we were gonna buy this house that was, you know, old log cabin. I mean, we had the deed and everything, and that it was a trading post. And the folks, it was the furthest trading post on the western side of the Appalachians. So folks on the eastern side, Boone, they would bring traders. So Daniel Boone would come over that mountain in a day, pick up stuff, and towed it back over the mountain over towards Boone and make a round trip in one day. Now, I walked around there and up on the mountains and stuff like that back when I was, 15 years ago and younger, and I'm hiking through the hills and all, and I'm like, man, I wasn't even close to hitting the bottom of this mountain or crossing over to the other side. And they might have had a pack mule or something like that, but they were walking these things. They were running. They didn't have all this water and all this stuff. No, it's because human beings, we have been changed over the years to, we have to have 3 meals a day. No, we don't. No, we don't. No, we don't. You're not going to die if you don't get 3 meals a day. You might perish if you don't get the correct amount of vitamins and this, that, and the other thing. What Native Americans and the old frontiers and the pioneers used to do, they used to forage. If it was the summertime and there were berries, they'd munch along as they were walking. They didn't sit down and have meals. They didn't have time to start a fire and do all this. They were trying to get a pack mule over the mountain and back in a day, because that's what they did. They didn't think about, how long it was going to take. They just did it. Stories of the old Native Americans and around here and the trails that go through. I mean, even on my property are the remnants of what was a burial site for a chief, because we found 250 different styles of flint tools, knives, and things right on the top of my property up here. Okay. So, but these folks could do 10 miles in the blink of an eye and barely break a sweat. They were used to it, but why didn't they die from dehydration? Why didn't this happen? Oh, how come? Well, they didn't get 3 meals a day. They were living off a little bit of beans and some jerky. How could they have the energy to do it? If you listen to modern day science, if you don't have all this stuff, then you don't have the fuel to do what you want to do. It's bullshit. It's bananas. We are capable of so much. So the first point that I want to tell people in an emergency is like 1 can of food a day, you can survive. If you eat 3 cans of something a day, you're going to need one of these a lot. Now, I'm going to make a joke about this, but it ain't a joke. I see these people with 3 packets of meals a day, right? They've got all this food and they got water stored up, but they're not thinking about where they're going to take a dump. What goes in has got to come out, and you're going to have a place to dump it. If you don't have electricity and your water isn't running, you better have a backup. And if you're going to eat 3 meals a day and some of those are beans, you're going to be pooting and tooting and having the runs, and you're not going to have running water to clean up with. And you don't have a backup plan. So my first thing that I tell people, Dave, how do you make it through? I make it through because I eat 1 meal a day. 1 meal. I eat a cookie here, maybe some crackers, a little this, but I eat 1 meal a day. A little picking, a little this. And I'm not talking about a bag of potato chips. No, I'm talking 2 or 3 potato chips, 2 or 3 kernels of popcorn, maybe a handful. That's all. But I eat a little bit of this and a little bit of some fruit, a banana, something like that. Now, the reason is because I need to do, when I go camping, the hardest part is to poop over a board in the middle of the swamp, with mosquitoes biting your junk, And if I go in my kayak, carrying a bucket and all this other kind of paraphernalia to go to the bathroom, I can't pack it all. I mean, it's absurd. But the more you eat, the more it's got to come out. Nobody's talking about the pooping part. Nobody. If you don't have water and your lights are out and you don't have electricity, now I can go up to my well and drop a bucket in. I've got 2 tanks, 1,000 gallons each. I've got 2,000 gallons above ground water that I can get water into my house with a hose under pressure. I can scrunch down and take a little bit of a shower. I can put it in another container, heat it, and take a hot shower. Other people can't do that. Now, I've planned for this in my lifetime. Other people can't. But you can store water. If the lights go out and you're not sure, fill up the tub immediately. Whether it's clean, dirty, or otherwise, find everything that'll hold water and put water in it. If it covers up the whole living room of pots and pans full of water, do it. Because you don't know when you're going to get any more. And people these days, I got to wash my hands for every little thing. Well, then what are you going to do with that water? Well, okay, this is what you do. Survival mode, you have a couple of 5-gallon buckets. This little toilet seat fits on a 5-gallon bucket. Okay, and then you can lift the lid. It even snaps really tough, does the whole, it's black and I'm in the dark, I know, but it's a nice little plastic thing. I've had a lady who was 250 pounds sit on one of these things. It didn't break, but the thing is that you don't use water. You use dirt or kitty litter. Now, if you don't have a cat, but you live somewhere, I'm sure you can get dirt. Go outside somewhere and get yourself a pail of dirt. Why? Because if you try to put water in your poo and it's cover it over like a cat. I'm serious, Have a bag of kitty litter sitting in your closet and get the scented kind, Now, I'll have a bottle of Spick and Span or something that has an orange smell or different smell. A pine scent, right? Because pine's one of the best. And so for an odor eater, I'm talking a couple of drops of pine sol, of the cheap kind, in the bottom of a bucket with a little bit of sand will keep any kind of odors from coming out. Now, I would strongly suggest that you do not eat 3 or 4 meals a day. Pick one. Your food's also going to last longer, okay? Now, I know people, well, I'm going to die and I'm going to be so... No, you're not. No, you're not. No, you're not. The science of eating and how much we need to survive. If that were the case, my true story of being stuck on the river for 4 days with only 2 little Debbie Moon pies and a quart of Gatorade and a 20-ounce Mountain Dew, that is the truth. I should have been dead. I didn't. I didn't die of starvation. I didn't die of dehydration. And it was 102 in the shade during the day. It was in the 90s at night. Now, to the point. Okay, I had folks looking out after me. I had my spirit guide keeping an eye on me. That's one thing. The other thing is that this whole thing was to teach me I don't have to have 3 meals a day. I'm not going to die. I don't have to have 4 gallons of water a day. I'm not going to die. And now I've done some more study. And one of the things they're saying, people who are very athletic are actually drinking and sweating too much. That they're literally, they put minerals and stuff into their body. Then they run, because if they don't sweat enough, they're not doing it. And then they have to rehydrate. They're actually overdoing it. And they're sweating out the minerals they just put in. In the real story, they should collect their sweat and put it back in. In the movie with Kevin Costner, Waterworld, he was on a big, sailboat, everything, and he had a still, and he'd pee in a thing, pour his pee into a thing, and drink it again. Thing is that he got his minerals. There are people who drink their own urine. I can't do it, but that's all right. But the point is that when we do sweat and pee, all the minerals go out of us. So the more we do it, the more we have to replace. So try not to sweat too much. Don't overdo it on purpose. You don't have to have 3 big meals a day. I've seen some of these MREs and stuff, and it's like, I eat the entree and then the this or that, which is the dessert for the one meal. That's my snack. And then the dessert or the this or the bread or the whatever. So 1 meal a day from an MRE's point of view, I eat the large portion as my main meal and the little snacky things depending as the rest of my filler for the day. And depending on where I'm at and in the woods or whatever, I'm doing a little foraging, a little cracker here or there, buy a package of crackers, but only eat 1. Stick them in your pocket. Hour or 2 later, have another peanut butter cracker. 2 some more. Hour later, don't sit and eat the whole pack, because that does you more harm. Because then that energy that's in you, if you don't get all the energy out of that 1 little peanut butter cracker, then you poo it on out. So you don't get all the benefit. If you eat 1, hello again, Miss Marie. So if you eat 1 cracker, you're going to get all the benefits out of that 1 cracker. You're going to get all the benefits out of it because there's not a bunch of other stuff in. And then you just got back from town. Hey, Missy. So people need to look at survival in just a different point of view, because we're overeaters, we're gluttons. I see the amount of food. I mean, I used to be 250 pounds. Okay. I was wearing size 38 and size 40 pants. My brother has always been a large person. He just has been. And we were swapping clothes. And for me, I've always been 135, 140 pounds, soaking wet with rocks in my pockets. And I gained in my lifetime 100 pounds. I don't weigh that now. I weigh about 165, 170, which is my good weight. And if I exercised more, I would have gotten my weight down to a consistent 160. Folks say, well, that's a little low for normal. Wait a minute. For every pound you have to walk with, carry with, that's energy you're going to burn to carry that weight. And I had a friend of mine, bless his soul, he was 310 pounds. And he came to stay with me for about 6 months. And he said, Mr. Dave, I know I've known you for a couple of years, and I saw where you lost 50 pounds. Can you show me how you lost 50 pounds? I said, sure. It's really not that hard. So I increased his walking, which he did very little of. And the first thing I did was cut out his sweets mostly. And I changed his candy bar sweets, which oh man, I love it, good almond joy or whatever, or amounts. But to the point though, we switched. I had him switch. I said, here's something that is sweet, but has, only this much calories. So I turned him on to a, bread and jelly sandwich. So he was getting the sweet taste in his mouth, but he wasn't getting crammed with, all this other stuff. So you can still have something sweet without having a candy bar that's, boing. So they don't really promote a healthy lifestyle. No. And the healthy lifestyle, years ago, as a puppeteer and a storyteller, I was hired by a local Albany, Georgia. It was a Phoebe Outreach Center, and they were to go around and teach children. They had their own puppets, and I wrote this story. I did the soundtrack, all the voices and everything, and sold it to them, package deal on CD, blah blah blah, so they could go out with their puppets and mouth the play, okay, to the kids they were doing. And it had to do with the 3 food groups and the beans and veggies, the good for your legs. There was little songs I had in there with about this and that and fruit and and they loved it. They paid me $1,500 for this back in the day. So, but what happened in the 2 months that I was doing this, recording it and going up there, sending it, they'd say, well, we don't like this part. So there were changes. But by the time I got it all done, the pyramid that they wanted to promote changed. So now, up to the 10 years before was the pyramid this and all the vegetable. So and they were still on with this. So, but the ironic thing was, I finished my contract. They got what they wanted. And a week later, they called me up and they said, they've changed the whole food pyramid thing. It's all different now. We don't know what to do. Your tape actually isn't any good, except, and I was like, so just go ahead and play it or skip over this part, or, when you're discussing with the kid, whatever it is. But it wasn't just about the pyramid. It was about that, these vegetables are good for this and carrots are good for your eyes. And, there was real information. That didn't change. We have a Healthy Herald, which visits schools, teach health kids, eating, government's cutting funding to they used to pay me $350 a day as a norm to go into schools and teach puppetry and recycling because the puppets I made, I used recycled materials. Back before recycle, I mean, we're talking in the 80s, I started this, okay? I started really early. And in the 90s, I was making decent money. I could make $500 in one day. Now, it was the whole day, and it wore me to slap out. But I would go in and teach, perform, show. I taught them how to use the puppets, showed them the different. I mean, the amount of knowledge they got in that one day just took me 3 days to recover. But I would get anywhere from $350, well, $250 at some of the schools. But I would do as many as 500 to 600 kids in one day. Some of the larger schools, they'd pay me $500 for the day. There was 1,000 kids in some of these schools. And every one of those kids got a chance to come and meet Mr. Dave. So I was teaching a healthy lifestyle, this and that. I can't give my services away now. I'm serious. I have volunteered, but because of the craziness with the school systems and Common Core and this other craziness, they tell me they don't have time for such frivolous things as learning about puppetry, creativity, and healthy. I use the puppets to teach them health and recycling and how to look at a milk jug in a different way, as something you could cut up and turn into a puppet with a little hot melt glue and a little this and that. You can make, and I would show these fantastic things that I made and also that other children had made out of with a pair of scissors and a milk jug, you know. But that's not important. We need to stick with Common Core, and they don't have 30 minutes to listen to you, whether we pay you or not. I haven't done a puppet show in 5 years. I cannot give my services away. I wanted to go down into the local parks and do it. You know, they want me to have, this is so dumb. If I want to go to a park, public park, you know, I've got my own stand-up 9x9 shelter. I got tents, I got stuff I could set up, you know, and I have. So I wanted to go down to the park on a Saturday or a Sunday and set up and do puppet shows for free. Just put out a can. If you want to put a dime in, you can. Otherwise, it's still free. Okay. Every city I've gone to will not allow me to perform unless I have, get this, a $1 million liability insurance. If I wish to perform for free, I have to have $1 million liability insurance. Like I was a food vendor or a this or a that. And so I'm like, I do puppets and storytelling. Doesn't matter. What if something happened to one of the children? Now, to the point, you know, I've got wooden controls for the marionettes. They said, what if you poked a child in the eye and they lost their eye? And I said, that would be horrible. And I said, but I've been doing this for 20 years. I never had a kid lose an eye or get poked, you know, because of the precautions. That's not the point. Someone could get hurt, and so you must have $1 million liability insurance to do a free puppet show for children. So I said, okay. I used to have a surety bond liability. I can't remember what it's called right now, but as a carpenter, I used to have a construction license to build houses or whatever. Yeah, as a mother, you enjoyed having my son bring home what he created in school. I've kept it a lot and all stored away. I've still got pictures that my 2-year-old son drew 45 years ago, you know, folded up in a folder upstairs. I understand. And there are people who come up to me now who are having their own children. In fact, one of the gracious ladies that I know, public liability. Yeah. And I don't know who came up with this because nobody ever got hurt. I used to go to the city of Albany. They opened up what they call a turtle park. And they did these things, and kids all around the city, each school had a turtle that they colored and stuff. Even if I art and craft my mom kept for me. Yep. Yeah, I've got something that we did. Both of my parents are dead now. And well, my adopted parents, but anyway, yeah. They're having their own children now. So I would be playing to grandchildren of of the parents that I performed than their kids. Now it's that their grandkids. And I have been, I hope it's good, Miss Marie. But I haven't even had that much to eat today. As a matter of fact, come to think of it, maybe that's why I'm hungry. But with the stupidness, so not only have they cut me out of just a little bit of extra income. I mean, I used to make good money. I mean, I used to do puppetry as a full-time business, and I didn't have to, you know, I was creative fried rice. Oh, yum, yum. And there's a couple of good Chinese restaurants down here in South Georgia. And there's this one place that's been here for, I don't know, 20 years or so. The family is now, the parents have retired and the kids are doing it. And the grandchildren are now running the place too. So, but, they make the best fried rice. Have to go to Thomasville. But the liability. So one of the things that really kind of ticks me off is that I was teaching children to be creative. I was teaching them how to take a mundane, you know, I don't know, I'm holding this up, take this box and turn it into a, you know, something and make something of it, you know, and to how to look at a stick with a different point of view and how to utilize your brain and how to be creative, not just to make a puppet or this, but how to just look at the world differently. And so of all the things that piss me off, I can't get to them. And I mean, you know, here, take this puppet. And they learn how to articulate. They learn how to create a story. They learn how to use their voice. And, they make up their own stories. Their imagination goes crazy. I can't get to them. And it's not that I'm doing anything. I'm providing the opportunity. They don't want that. It's a shame. And I'm like, I'm going to figure out how to do this on the internet. Doing cameras and things with puppets, it is not easy. So I'm going to work it out. And also, I've been so sick and down and everything physically that I was not able to do it. I mean, when you can't sit up without, you know, drooling all over yourself. And I couldn't have a conversation. I've been on here for an hour and 32 minutes plus the junk video. And I couldn't have been able to talk to you for 10 minutes at all in a stretch. So I've come a long way, baby, and I'm going to keep going because I refuse to give up. And also, folks need to hear some stuff. And I need to try to get to the kids and go, look, you know, stop listening to some of these stupid parents because they're dumb as a box of rocks. So, but anyway, so going back to the preparedness thing and the food, they've changed since I did that recording back in the it was about 89-ish or maybe 90 that I did that. Since that time, the pyramid chain thing has changed 3 times, not counting what it was. They've changed it 3 times, which would actually, we're on our 4th rendition. And from what I understand, they're rearranging it again. Now, I'm not suggesting that people should starve. Not at all. But I am suggesting that you're not going to die if you don't get 3 meals a day. That's all. You're not going to die. You're not. And the brainwash, oh my God, the brainwashing. If you don't get this, if you don't get that, I suggest you do some more homework. And above all, with your own self, it's like, how did you lose 50 pounds, Mr. Dave? I cut out one. At first, I just cut out 1 meal. So I ate 2 meals a day. And instead of going back for seconds, I stayed with 1. Don't go back for seconds. And if I went back, then that was my dessert. I used to go back for seconds and thirds and then eat dessert, you know. I could get full now on just what I used to eat for dessert. And last me for a full day, no problem. So People need to reevaluate what they're eating, how they're eating it, and the fact that we've been brainwashed. We have to have a gallon of water. We have to have this and this. No, you don't. No, you don't. I'm not saying, you don't need liquid. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that they are absolutely, we're overdoing it. I mean, I know people who are very athletic. I mean, they jog every day. I don't do that, but I try to stay busy. I try to exercise, and I do when I can. But these folks are like exercise 3 times a day. Or, they run before lunch. They run out, and these people they're falling apart. When I would direct theater, the one particular lady, a beautiful lady, ran there, ran back, blah, 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 blah. She drank more water in the evening during our rehearsals than I drank all day. And she was like, I can't get enough water. I can't get enough water. I can't get enough water. And I drank one of those bottles of water, and I was like, up to here. But she ran so much, she was depleting her body of what she needed. And she wasn't happy until she sweat, until her shirt was soaked and blah, blah. And I'm like, I can walk outside and that happens to me. But to the point, even with the amount of sweating that I do with the conditions that I have, I know that I can still make it on a quart of water. I need to stay cool and calm and blah, 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 things to do. But I know that I'm not going to die if I only have a quart of water a day. Because I've done it, I proved it, but you have to train your body. I just didn't just jump off the wagon and say, okay, I went from 3 meals a day and a gallon and a half of liquid and quarts of beer and this, all of those. To now, I drink a few cups of coffee. I have, I like these kind of drinks. They come in these things here, like this one is pink guava juice, and it's got like 30% juice in it. And it's low on calories, it's non-carbonated. So where I used to drink sodas and, Mountain Dew, Mountain Dew free. But so I've cut that down. I still get what I need. I still can have a Mountain Dew once in a while without feeling guilty. Now I can tell that it makes me burp and I have to pee different. I mean, I can tell once you wean yourself off of having so much. And now I have my own well, so I know where my water comes from, versus folks in the city and having it in plastic. People have no idea. I mean, I've got a friend of mine who's got a deep well. And instead of drinking her water, she buys water from Walmart that's been sitting in plastic and wonders why she can't lose weight. She's 5 or 6, 8, 10 of these bottles a day she drinks, and she don't exercise a lot. She's a big woman. And I looked and I said, honey, why don't you just go to the sink and get your glass? Oh, well, this is so much more convenient. Yeah, but it's got particles of plastic in the water, right? The micro, and for every bottle you're drinking, you're ingesting those plastics. You know that, don't you? You're a nurse, right? You've seen the studies, right? Well, yeah, but I don't, She drinks a case every 2 or 3 days. She brings 3 or 4 cases home, when she goes to the grocery store. Not only that, she's on a limited income, and she's paying for water that she could get out of the tap. And hers is well water. Deep, good, honest to God. Oh, my God, I'll go over to her house. I'll get water from her well to bring home because mine sometimes will muddy up. And like last summer, it was so dry. I didn't even have any water in my well hardly, So when it gets that low, I try not to drink it. Not because it's going to hurt me, because I don't want to run out, So I get water from other sources, Anyway, my point is I would go to her house for drinking water because I was afraid to drink the rainwater, even though I've drank the rainwater for many years and it ain't seemed to hurt me. So, but the rainwater is pulling all of those bad chemicals out through them chemtrails. So I really don't know what the water's like. except that I know the spigot is this far from the bottom. So anything heavy is going to sink past where I draw my water from. The only good thing about that. So people are convinced. And the other thing that ticks me off is now she's got garbage cans full of empty plastic bottles. Knowing, because I've shown her when we go camping or things, whatever, over the years, you know, the islands of plastic in the middle of the river. Garbage, you know, and I've been complaining about the plastic since 2002 when I did a river trip, and I started seeing these huge piles of islands of plastics, and mostly plastics, but other things mixed in there, papers and things and stuff. But it was the plastics, the different types of plastics that were joined together. And literally, I've got videos of big, huge floating islands in the swamp. And when the water in the swamp goes down, which it's been recently, they're these huge mounds of crap in the middle of the woods. And when the water comes back up, these islands float, and other things that are around, it's like magnets, and these islands grow. And they're huge. I mean, it would take me 2 or 3 or 4 full canoes of nothing but stuff and get me out of the canoe. I mean, the canoe in itself, and I got a 17-footer. I'd have to pile these things up with the garbage to even put a dent in some of these islands. That's how big. And this is down in the deep woods on the Florida-Georgia border where some of this stuff is collecting. I've taken people down in the swamps. Oh, they don't care. Well, and it doesn't go away because as it gets collected with weeds and this and that and the other thing, sun can't get to the plastic. Some of these islands have been there for 5 years. I know one island that started out as a spot in between some trees that has grown into this huge nest of things. Moccasins live on it now. That's the good news, I guess. But the thing is that it's a big, giant plastic island in the middle of what should be a pristine swamp. People don't care because they don't go there. Well, they throw the bottle off the fridge and into the water, or they throw it into the ditch. And when it rains real hard, all of this goes down into the rivers. And all these plastics, they have an electrical charge. I mean, I've seen pieces of plastic go down the river, get attracted to one another, and then like ride, you know, follow each other down. It's weird, but they do act sort of like static electricity. That's it. We created a new layer of plastic, so in a few thousand years, we be digging it up like archaeologists, and they will be wondering why we used it. Yep. And here's an interesting thing. Now, this has been at least 5 years ago when I started looking into some of these things. They were looking at corn syrup. They still are, by the way. And they do have some plastics that will, like, if you can buy these plastic bags to put your garbage in. Now, this doesn't make sense. The garbage doesn't disintegrate, but the bag will. The plastic bag will disintegrate into a sugar-based kind of thing and actually be healthy for the environment. They've been making. It's what you put in the plastic bag that doesn't go away because you're filling that biodegradable. You get it, right? Is this not stupid? Here is this bag, you know, that's biodegradable, but what you put in it ain't. But everybody's so worried about these damn plastic bags. But everything that goes in it has got some kind of plastic in it. Even I found out recently, it really ticked me off. They're putting plastic liners on the inside of aluminum cans. They spray it with like this plastic. And I was like, what? So here I think I'm drinking out of an aluminum can. And somebody said way back when, well, you know, aluminum is bad for you, so we're going to coat it with plastic. So the plastic they coat it with is as bad or maybe worse than the aluminum can itself. So these containers here, they're cardboard, but they do have like an aluminum foil kind of thing on the inside to keep it keep it from leaking through the cardboard, actually. But this particular one that I just bought, this is good until 5/5 of the year 20. That's what it says. So this has got a shelf life of 2 years, just the way it is if I keep it. Yeah, I collect aluminum cans for that too. My point is though, I was trying to stay away from plastics, especially with something like a soda that is got an acid base, because it will, you know, little tiny nanoparticles of plastic are coming off into our drinks. Okay, yeah, right. Not a problem. Well, except that, you know, when you get to be 65 years old like me, and you've been drinking out of these cans and plastic, blah, 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 it's accumulative. So as soon as I realized, I quit drinking out of plastic bottles, and I went to aluminum cans. And then, thank God, they went to the taller aluminum cans, because I was like, you know, you can only get a 12-ounce can. They're supposed to be able to recycle, but council doesn't recycle them because of the aluminum inside. That's about right. It's so. I've worked for several companies, but this one particular company, $350 million a year was what their profit thingy, how much they made. $350 million a year. Now, pineapple. It's good too. The things that they had, and I've got some pieces of machinery. There was this one particular machine that cost them $500,000 to build. It had aluminum plates this thick, 20 feet in diameter, with all kinds of stuff on them and this and that and the other thing. Well, and now the thing is that Chrysler Corporation builds cars, etc. Chrysler gave them the money to build this prototype, and it didn't work. Now, it wasn't that the machine didn't work either, but what Chrysler was trying to put on their new Hemi didn't work. So, and this was back about 99, 2000, 2001, okay? So almost 20 years ago now, really. And so we were working on this. And so they were trying to do this thing. And oh my God, the amount of money and the time and the oh my God, $1 million was spent trying to support a $500,000 machine. I mean, it had bells and whistles and monitors, and it was covered in plastic. And when Chrysler said, well, we just don't think, we were building the parts for them, okay, even though the machine didn't work quite the way it should have, we still were able to make our commitment as a company to sell Chrysler what they ordered. But Chrysler's design didn't work. So they trashed it. And so they said, well, okay, you know, $500,000. All right. So what do we want to do with the machine? They said, we don't want it. What are we going to do with it? They called a truck and took it to the dump because they said it would cost too much money to disassemble it and recycle it. And since it wasn't Prestolite's money, the money was, project development and was given out by Chrysler. And since Chrysler said, don't want it, you can do whatever you want, it went to the dump. They would not, we volunteered to go out and take it apart on our own time. But because it was on company property, and if we clocked out, then we weren't covered, they wouldn't let us tear it apart and recycle it for the company. Almost $2 million in that project, literally up in smoke. Now, people got paid out of that, and machinists got paid and this and that, but what was the ultimate result? Nothing. A big, humongous $500,000 scrap machine that was a one of a kind. So, but they wouldn't let us recycle it. I was like, there was $5,000 worth of aluminum in this one plate. Oh well, never mind. But see, having worked for corporations, that's what they do. They don't recycle things. They don't look for that. It costs them too much. There's too much liability in the company. It's just easier to pay somebody to come drag it off. Let them worry about it. So not putting the recycle symbol on those drinking cartons. Yeah, exactly. And, now I understand it because it's on some of the plastic, like Connecticut, places like that, they recycle their plastic. Well, down here, they don't give a rip. Now, there's a little bit, and they have a little recycling center. But I mean, I tried back in 1990 here in the South to really get on board, especially in our county, to, do more recycling and for people to really become aware. I was volunteering my time to the county, to the library, and and so they were so against me. You had to go into the library a month in advance, right? So I planned a month in advance with this large auditorium in our local library to use it free of charge. All you have to do. All right. So I put out posters. I put out flyers. A lot of people who knew who I was at the time were going to come to this free puppet show, 2 shows, same day, night thing, to learn about recycling and all this stuff. When I got there the day of it, the library had taken down all my posters and replaced them because there was somebody who was a wood burner who was traveling through town and just so happened to know somebody in the right spot, and they gave the room to him. So people came to see me give a free performance, and they stuck me in a closet in a hallway. People were coming in going, well, where are you at? And I said, they gave the room to the wood guy. What? But you've been telling us for a month. And I said, go talk to the people at the library. They threw me out of the public library for wanting to do a free puppet show and teach about recycling. They won't let me back in that library. I'm not lying. I mean, and I'm just David. No, I just want to give puppet shows and teach people about recycling. They were so against it. They won't even let me in the library. And it's a public library. Yeah, that kind of makes me mad. Even the one down in Thomasville, they found out that I'd been busted. And it was back in the day when folks were starting to do background checks on people. Well, I'd been to that library 24 times, but they got a new director. So the new director comes up and says, well, our new policy is we don't care how many times you've been here. I'm going to run a background check on you. And I said, well, before you do, I said, you never asked me. Nobody's ever asked me what my past was like. And I said, some people did, some people didn't. And I said, but I want you to know that I've been busted for weed, and it was a felony. It was over an ounce, and that's a felony in Georgia. And I said, I got caught for weed, so I've got a felony record. Okay. Oh, I'm sorry. We can't let you in the library. I said I was busted for a bag of weed, not pedophile. I didn't try to murder somebody, not drunk driving and, you know, and manslaughter. And they did it illegally, but I can't sue them for it, kind of thing. You know, I wasn't out on the street selling it. They busted me at my house, you know, on a tip. And I just so happened to have a little bit more than an ounce of weed, and they busted me. And I said, everybody knows that I've been smoking for my epilepsy and this and that. I don't push it on kids. I don't even promote it. I use it for myself, for my ailments. But when they found out that I'd been busted for weed, I'm no longer allowed in the Thomasville Library because of my past. Now, people they knew I smoked. Some of them even smoked with me. And there was a person at the library who worked there who smoked in the past with me, was not allowed to speak to me or look at me in the face. And I'm not allowed to go in the library and perform or tell stories or read books. If my name is mentioned as David Knoll in the county library, oh, that's the guy that got busted for weed. They never forget. So I would drive to Tennessee and get paid $1,000 for a weekend. I mean, they didn't care, but to the point though, that's how much society has changed. And I'm talking about since 2006, 2007. Folks have gotten so paranoid about, well, what's your thing? Okay, well, what's your background? Oh, you got stuff for a child. You mean you had a for example, one of the towns, there was a write-up in the newspaper, and they were talking. This was recently in Oregon, but it's happened down here in the South and other places too. But they can't find enough workers in Oregon to pass the piss test. There's plenty of people who work. Majority of people who smoke weed as an antidepressant, and others use too, but big pharma rather than the synthetics. Absolutely. Absolutely. And, you know, the natural stuff. I mean, I got busted for growing my own. I mean, I just had a couple of plants in a bucket out back. I live in the middle of in a forest. But they came over in a helicopter and found 4 plants in 5-gallon buckets, and they sent the GBI. There were 15 cop cars. There were guns, high-powered rifles for 4 marijuana plants in a bucket this big. But they spotted them from a helicopter in the middle of my property, in the middle of a swamp, but they found it. I wasn't going on the street and buying it. I wasn't selling it to anybody. The only way they found I had it was because of a helicopter. I mean, you know, all right. So then I started growing indoors. That's not the point. That's not the point. I still got busted, you know. I know Xanax has the same effects as marijuana, artificially created in the lab with side effects. Yeah. And I mean, I've been bitching about it. I used to take all these heavy duty meds and stuff, and I've got empty pill bottles all over the place. I'm down to 5 pills a day. And I used to take 25 a day. And all of it was big pharma. And my prescriptions with Medicare here in the United States, I would pay $3, $4, $5 per prescription. Well, when you get the prescription, they don't tell you the full price of it. But at the end of the month, you get a statement in. And some of these meds were like $300, $400 a month. So when I got the total at the end of the month as to how much my Medicare had paid for pharma, it was $23,000 in medicine. Now I only paid $4 or $5. Some of them I had to pay full price, $50, $60. But the total that I didn't get to see because I'm only paying a percentage, my insurance, the government has to pick up. Why are some of these medicines $200 and $300 per prescription when it's just supposed to be this or this? And some of my Mexican friends say, well, we buy this over the counter in Mexico. And up here, you have to have a prescription. You have to go to the doctor. So there's $100 doctor fee. There's going to the, blah, blah, blah. And by the time you're through, you spent $400 for a prescription. And you got to go back every month to get it filled, Plus, we don't know what we're getting. And I mean, you can read the side effects, blah, blah, blah. But there was one particular pill I remember years ago, and I was taking it because of my narcolepsy. And I mean, clinically tested narcolepsy, okay? Honest. So I'm like, all right. So I'm taking, I can't remember the name of it, but one pill a day. Boom. Come to find out that we were guinea pigs. The company gave me a free prescription of this stuff. When I tried to buy it, it was $500 for 30 pills. They used us freebies for this trial run. And once a month, a lady would call me on the phone and go, Mr. Null, how you feeling? Blah, 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 blah. Okay, do you have any side effects? No. Okay. Come to find out, us were guinea pigs because and I just heard this like a week ago, this new medicine that they were giving pilots who needed to fly for, extended periods of time. And so they had worked on developing this drug to where it would keep you awake like an amphetamine, but it wouldn't give you the jitters like, a good hard, Black Beauty or something, the amphetamines of the old days, right? I was one of the guinea pigs for 3 years. And they switched me to another drug, and I got onto Medicare. And Medicare wouldn't cover that drug, which I'm glad, but that's not the point. The point is that for 3 years, every month they called me, how you doing? How you doing? Now, they gave me the medicine free. I had to sign a thing, a waiver and all that through the doctor. Everything was legit. But the bottom line was we were guinea pigs for the military. And it just came out. I can't remember the name of the meds. I've got a bottle upstairs that's empty, and I kept it just because. Your ex ended up going psychotic on the medication. It's not organic, and the residue absorbed into the body ended up becoming toxic to your body, and you have to wean yourself down to the medications. That's what I'm in the middle of doing right now. I'm in the process of allowing my body to rid itself of whatever crap I have put in it legally, okay? Not counting what's on the list, but the side effects and what, it says, they always say, talk to your pharmacist about this. Well, I talked to my pharmacist, and they say, well, all right, if I mix this one and that one together, what's it going to do? And he looks at me and goes, I have not a clue. I have no flipping idea what it's going to do to you. But let me know, will you? Because I got other patients who take about the same thing you do. Now, this was a friend of mine who was a pharmacist in Thomasville having this discussion with me, okay? Well, take your normal dosage, and if you have a problem, call me up, because I got some little old lady over here who wants to, she's asking the same thing. We are such guinea pigs. I have been one of the biggest. I go back to when I first went into therapy because I was molested by a priest and all this other weird stuff. I had some severe auto accidents with head concussions that was just astronomical. And so, of course, they put me on drugs. Yeah, take 3 Valium a day, and here, take this. The Valium is what I tried to commit suicide on. I tied a rope around my neck and jumped because of the Valium. They didn't tell you back then that if you drank a glass of wine and had 3 Valium in a day, you're going to get higher than hell. Well, I was getting high anyway back in those days, my young, late teens, early 20s. But then I come to find out that they were like, oh, you're not supposed to drink alcohol with us. It doesn't say it in the bottle. Nobody told me. I just came home and had a bottle of wine. I didn't get drunk. We had supper, I had a glass of wine. And the next thing I know, at 4 a.m, I'm dangling from a basketball net out in the courtyard from the apartment complex. I'm still paying for that one. So these are the wonderful drugs they gave us. These are the wonderful things they do. And then here, the last 4 or 5 years, they were trying to get me off of one of my epilepsy medicines and trade it for another one. And when they did the flashing lights. They gave me the med. They took me off of phenobarb that I'd been on for 20 years. They took me off of the phenobarb, which was really bad, and put me on this new Banzel drug, and then subjected me to the bright lights. And the next thing I know, I'm never having full-blown seizures in my life, just little catnap narcolepsy. I'm now swallowing my tongue on the floor in a full-blown epileptic seizure because of what the doctors did to me and the medicine they prescribed. Yep, David, it messes you up. Sure does, Miss Marie. Yeah, Wade, just green. And I smoke my cigar and I roll my own cigarettes, and every month I buy a couple of packages of Pall Mall. You know, I haven't been able to give up smoking cigarettes entirely, but a friend of mine told me years ago, and that's why I only buy a couple of packs a month. I used to smoke 2 packs a day. And then I got down to 1 pack a day. And then I got down to a half a pack a day. Then I said, what the hell am I buying cigarettes for? Especially at $4 or $5 a pack. And I'm on limited income. That's why I was before I couldn't get rid of this habit along with other things. So, you know, $850 a month didn't go around much. But anyway, now I buy tobacco in a big bag. This cost me $6. Less than 2 packs of cigarettes for this. It's 6 ounces of tobacco. And I mean, it's full. All right. Now it is pipe tobacco. I don't care. I've had lots of different pipes back in the day. I literally, you know, I was Sherlock Holmes. So they loved to smoke a pipe. Now, even in the Sherlock Holmes cat in the really long, you know, love it. Still do. But it wasn't doing me for a cigarette. You take a big old hit off a pipe and you're going to choke. So I started rolling my own. So I got me a roller machine, papers, and, you know, Topps papers. Everybody's like, Mr. Dave, you're rolling weed. No, I don't smoke weed with papers, but that's a separate issue. So, but now I'm down to, I don't smoke a pack a day. You know, I smoke them down to about this far. This is a cigarette butt, by the way. And it was only that long to begin with, you know. So I'm smoking less. No, I don't have a filter. But what I found out with the Pall Malls, and I was sitting under a black light and listening to a program about chemicals and things and how different. $12 a pack. Holy crap. Man, I could make a bunch of money just by sending you a carton. Anyway, black market cigarettes, big business. I forgot where I was. Oh well, never mind. I roll my own too, but I've never seen those tobacco pouches. Where you get them from? There's a down here in, I guess in America in general, they have certain towns will have a smokehouse where they'll you know, they might have to pipe tobacco in you know, glass jars, like weed emporiums. It's a tobacco shop, and they'll different kinds of cigars, you know, from around the world, you know, blah blah blah, different types of tobaccos, pipe tobaccos. Well, there is one of these that are run by some Pakistani folks. And I say that because anybody down here in the South, any store you go into anymore, any convenience store, it's all run by these folks. I'm not meaning anything by it. It's just a fact. You have to learn Swahili to speak to some of these folks, you know. But they have all their relatives back in India and all these other different places where this stuff is common. So they've got a link, which is good, you know, because they get all these tobaccos and things in these nice Ziploc packages and stuff, you know. This is a red cap, and then this is regular. They come in mild. They even have menthol type tobacco, you know, in a package. And so, you know, for $6-7 on one of those, and they sell a larger one, twice as big, but they're like 10, 12. It's actually more expensive to buy the bigger bag if you figure it out by the ounce. But anyway, so I buy, you know, one of these, and there's a blue kind. And so once a month, I buy one of this and one of that and a couple packs of cigarettes. And when my regular smokes run out, well, I wait till the end of the month when I get my check. Now, going back to the black light, though. So I'm holding up a Pall Mall underneath the black light, right? And I'm looking, and there's all these kinds of weird things on it. And as I was listening to the program on YouTube, I can't remember what it was, but it was in the middle of something else. And they were like, yeah, you know, certain chemicals that they put in our food and on cigarettes and things fluoresce, and you can see it under a black light. And I went, oh, I forgot. Do you know what they do to cigarettes? One of them, they put sugar in it. So when you smoke the tobacco, the sugar lights up, and you end up, it's like freebasing cocaine or crack cocaine. So the sugar in the cigarette combines with the nicotine. It's just sugar. Now, that doesn't fluoresce. What does fluoresce, and I can't believe it, they put ammonia, cleaning ammonia into cigarettes and into the tobacco. And if the tobacco has been in the cigarette case pack long enough and under a black light, and I found out that Marlboros are the worst. But and I was surprised because I buy Pall Mall because I never saw the anyway. So when it fluoresced the other day, I was like, that's how come these things have changed taste. So depending on the quality and brand, and the prices vary, our government just put prices up again. Yeah. Well, see, here in the States, every state has its own tax along with the federal tax. And like New York, I don't know, it's real expensive there. And folks from down here in the South, we used to grow tobacco. There used to be tobacco fields just like a half a mile from me. All over the South Georgia used to be eat up with tobacco until they chased them overseas. So all the tobacco now comes from other countries where they can use nasty poisons on the tobacco to grow it. They outlawed some of the pesticides they were using on the tobacco here, which needed to be gone. But then they replaced the tobacco with cotton, and some of the pesticides and things they use on the cotton is worse than the tobacco. And they've put twice as many people out of work. And now we have to buy cigarettes from another country because Georgia doesn't grow tobacco anymore. Thousands of people went out of business. I mean, they used to have tobacco sales, and people would come in the summertime, and I used to crop tobacco. I mean, the business, in the summertime, if you were broke and needed a little extra money, you could always get a job doing something with tobacco in the warehouse, hauling it, something. You could make extra money on the side. Not anymore. All that went away. Bye-bye. So, but at the same time, though, too, the price of we could buy a pack of cigarettes for 40 cents. And it was $2.50 a pack back in those days. And I could drive north and take 4 cartons of cigarettes, and it would pay for my gas and back on 4 cartons of cigarettes. That was back in the day when gas was 75 cents. I mean, you know, but to the point now, there are folks that are still doing it, you know. I can't get tobacco seeds. It's been really difficult. You have to buy like 20 pounds of the damn things. I've gone to the local stores. You have to get it through a place. And because tobacco is a regulated type thing, in other words, down here they sell what's called allotments. If you don't have an allotment to grow tobacco, they won't even sell you the seeds. So I haven't had a chance to find out where to get seeds from. Now, there's a place out west I know, but I've been sick, and I'm getting back on my own 2 feet again. And that's one of the things I'm looking at. I'm growing other herbs that I have gone to North Georgia, Alabama, Arkansas, Tennessee, and I've brought plants back here, and I've got them to where they grow here now again on my place. I'm trying to find some sassafras. They've killed all the sassafras around here. You can't find a sassafras tree. And it used to be on every single hedgerow. Anyway. But tobacco, yes, I want to grow my own. And, but like I said, if you have to go in and say, here's my government paper that says I have a tobacco allotment. Well, I only want to grow 10 plants. Doesn't matter. Where's your tobacco allotment? But I don't have an allotment. I just want enough seeds to grow a few plants. Sorry. I'll find it. I'll find some seeds. But that's how stupid it is. You know, I mean, for the same thing, the state of Georgia paid a bunch of bucks to study whether or not hemp would be a viable crop in Georgia. They figured out that a 1 acre plot of land with the worst land possible, and I got some bad land that's just hard ass clay, but that, are you talking about tobacco they're growing, Marie, or the other? Yeah, we're not allowed to be self-sufficient. If the county knew some of the stuff I was doing down here on my own, if they knew I had an open well, they would shut me down and lock me out of my house. I've already been told. And I'm like, I don't tell anybody that I have an open well. I'm like, oh yeah, I've dug my own well, blah, blah, blah. They say that, oh, but I dug another one later on. Well, I sort of did, but I'm still getting water out of that one. I mean, I can see the water, you know. I can look and tell if there's anything in it or not. Anyway, so, I mean, they passed a law here in the last year, and they were selling South Georgia as an alternative to Florida because too many people were going to Florida. So they were saying, come to Thomasville, South Georgia. You're almost to Florida. You're only a couple hours from the coast, but you don't have to worry about hurricanes, and you don't have to worry about this and overcrowding, and we're cheap with this and that, blah, 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 blah. And, you know, bring your mobile homes and you can stay in your fifth wheels and whatever. They got all these snowbirds to come down here and want to do this. And then folks who were too poor to be able to put up with the continuing high cost of rent started buying, purchasing, and living in travel trailers. I mean, I lived in one here when I first started homesteading. And so now they passed an ordinance. You can't live in a travel trailer of any kind. If it's not up on blocks in a mobile home, you're not supposed to be able to live in it. Now, folks are doing it. But the thing is the county, now they're going around, the electric company people and other people, the trash folks, are turning in citizens because they're living in a travel trailer. Well, it's self-sufficient. It's got its own water lights. It runs off of batteries. You can't live in them. So people sold their homes so they could be mobile. bought a lot so they could live on the lot, travel when they wanted to, go see their friends, take their trailer with them. And now the county says you can't live here. You can't live on the property that you purchased legally. You can't live in it now. You can park it in your backyard, but you can't live in it. Because they can't tax it. That's why. They can't tax the mobile home. They can't tax it. They can tax it through the tag, but they can't get property tax on it. Some of these people are just going to have to go. And some of them might just end up swinging because they have done such, not by me, by other folks who've had enough of this. And I'm not talking about going to Washington. I'm talking about going to the courthouse. They appraised my property for 7 years in a row at a $2,000 an acre. I've got 18 acres, not counting the house, but the house is on it. Now the house ain't worth nothing because how they value a house, because I've used old barn wood. It's strong. It's been through a bunch of hurricanes, been through 2 tornadoes that literally went right over the top of my house and ruined my neighbor's barn twice, tore it down. They just finished rebuilding it. I'm still here. I haven't lost a piece of tin off the house. One off the shed, big deal. But to my point, I've been here 35 years with this house that I built out of recycled materials. Now, there's new materials and concrete, but to the point, I've got old barn wood in here. You can't legally put old barn wood in a new house now because it's used. You can polish it. You have to get special dispensation to use old wood in a new house. I don't get it. If it's sound, if a 2x2 is still a 2x2, and who gives a crap if it's 100 years old or not, or 50 years old? If it's used wood, you're not allowed to use it in a new construction. So I don't tell them. I was grandfathered in. Not really. I'm building on a front porch onto my house. Did I go down and get a permit? No, I ain't going to neither. However, I got a notice in the mail. I owe them $369 in garbage tax. And they have already put in the process a lien on my property. So when I went in, it's been 2 years now. They changed the law and didn't send anything to us, right, about land tax. So here I am, 62 years old. I'm partially retired on disability and, trying my best just to live. And they come up with, I owe them $700 in tax. That's a month's salary out of 12, that I have to give up a month's salary to pay my tax. Wait a minute. How did you appraise this? They appraised 18 acres on the fact that it was worth $2,000 an acre. The land in my backyard is only worth $200 an acre because it's a swamp. I only have 5 acres that are considered worth $2,000 an acre. But if you look at the property and the slope and the this and the other thing, it's not good, nice, flat property. That's why I got it off such a deal. The guy looked at me and went, oh, so instead of $700 a year, it's now $2,000. Well, they lost $500 a year tax for me. Whoops. So they decided not to accept the fact that I'm 65 and supposed to, even though I don't use their garbage service, because it's a county tax that every resident must pay $25 or $30 a month for their garbage disposal. I don't have $30 for the garbage. I'm a single retiree living down here in the woods. We are supposed to get a break. They decided not to give me a break because they gave my property tax a break. So now where I thought I sent my paperwork in, but they didn't tell me that they rejected it. So now I owe for last year, all of year plus interest, and I owe for this year, and they want me to pay it right away because they're going to send a sheriff out here this coming week and tack a notice on my door that they're going to sell my property of 18 acres for almost 40 years of being here. They're going to sell it for $360 worth of garbage tax they were supposed to give me for free. They were supposed, because I'm 65, I was going to be exempt. They didn't get the $500 off of me on the land tax, so now they're going to get it one way or the other. On a garbage tax, they said they can do it because they're the flipping government. I've been through this before. Oh, they lost my papers. But wait a minute. Well, we sent you a notice. No, you didn't. Yes, we did. And because they said they mailed it, whether I got it or not. Now, I might have got it because there are some things that come in here. I just go, what the hell? I don't do paperwork well anymore. And I don't have anybody to help me. So it could have come in. But the bottom line is, they gave it to me before they cut my property tax. But when they cut my property tax, they didn't give me the pass for the garbage tax. $25 or $30 a month. And that's for a family of 5. So they don't even give me a break. And so when I called them about it, they were like, well, wait, you didn't send in your paperwork. I was like, bullshit. I sent it in. No, you didn't. We sent you a notice. No, you didn't. You didn't send me a notice saying that I don't qualify now. You mean every year, you know I'm over 60. You know I'm 65. Am I going to get younger? I have to send you a thing in every year telling you how freaking old I am? Yes, sir. I'm 65. I am retired. You can't put it on the thing. This person's retired. He's 65. No, if you don't send in your paperwork when they say, and when they say they just, oh, we didn't get it. So now you owe us the money or we're going to take your freaking property. I don't have to go to Washington. I got assholes right up the road. What are they going to do? I'm going to not do something else, and I'm going to shit a gold brick, and I'm going to come up with $361 because they won't help me. It's the county. They've lost money because they valued my property. They did it wrong to begin with. And so when I try to complain about, well, oh, you can't do it till next year. They only give you like a month out of every year to complain about your taxes. And if you don't get it in that month or they don't send somebody else, you have to pay the tax whether they do or not. So for 3 years, I fought it. And it took them another year to come out and do it. So for 4 years, I paid way over what I was appraised. And when they came out and saw the mistake, oh, okay. But the county still wants the money. They're going to find it one way or the other. They might stop me going into town and charge me $100. They might come down here and bust me for this damn little pipe full of weed I got. But they won't take a cut and pay. I make $1,000 a month. I don't make it. That's, you know, oh, a grand a month. But when you try to buy tires and this, you know, I don't have my teeth. I don't have teeth, you know. And everybody's like, why don't you get your teeth fixed? Because Medicare don't cover it. And there ain't a damn dentist in the United States that I have found at this particular point that says, you give me cash first before I see you. They don't see you and then you pay them. Oh, no, 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 no. I contend that all dentists are going to hell. They're not even going to go past, you know, swing past go and get $200. They're going straight to hell. There are all these beautiful dentists around and all these folks works for them. You buy the dental insurance and you pay $50 a month. And then you go to a dentist who will take the insurance, who charges $300 more so that he gets paid by the insurance company, and you still end up paying him. Now, if you didn't have the insurance, it would have cost you less. But because you had the insurance and they could charge it. So either way, I mean, I won't get fillings or anything. I just want you to rip the damn things out. I pulled 3 of my own teeth right here in the front. I'm working on another one. Save me $400, $200 a tooth, $600 actually, and then this one would be $8 if I pull this one, which it's coming. But to the point, we don't have to go to Washington. We don't have to go someplace else. These folks around here, and I say around here, I mean, it's like this in Mississippi. It's like this in Alabama. It's like this in parts of Florida. It's no different. Now, it might be a different set of circumstances, but it's still BS. You know, like some of the folks down in Florida, you know, oh, come on down, all you snowbirds, right? But depending on the county, depending on the city, depending on the township, depending on just where you're sitting, you might think that everything's hunky-dory and there's some lopsided law nobody mentioned to you, and all of a sudden you owe. And you owe somebody, and you owe big time. And then you turn around, and the next thing you know, because the cop comes and puts a paper with tape on your door, you no longer own it. You're no longer allowed to go in it. You can't get your stuff out of it. I mean, we have gone bat crap crazy. We have. Now, I'm still praying for the best. And I bet you I've vented more in this video than I have. You know, I wasn't supposed to be vetting. You know, I was just, I was going to keep it all positive. But man, when you see some of the stuff that goes on, and I think to myself, I'm just David Null. I'm not anything special in the grand scheme of things. I didn't run for governor. I didn't run for Senate. No, because I had a drug history, and if I pee, and I'm not interested. I would rather work on the ground level, teaching kids, teaching folks, and doing the entertainment and puppetry and all that. All this stuff was supposed to be to give to other people. And they won't allow me to do it. Like earlier tonight. Why did my mic go out twice? It never done that before. Oh, but, you know, it's just gremlins. You know, what am I going to talk about? I've had 3 computers get fried in less than 2 months because I was trying to speak about all the chicken poo in South Georgia and what it was doing to all of us. Oh, that's another show. I could speak for 5 hours on it and hardly repeat myself. So we went from growing tobacco, sort of growing a lot of cotton around here, but now we are one of the largest chicken killing plants in the world in Moultrie, Georgia. The chicken plant killing place is bigger than downtown Moultrie. It has a bigger water tower. It has a bigger infrastructure. It is a city unto itself in Moultrie. And employs a lot of people. All the chicken farms around here. Millions of chickens a month killed. Farms all around me. Within 2 miles of me, this direction, there are 8 chicken houses on one piece of property. You go across the road and down about a half a mile, there are 4 more chicken houses. That's just that way. You go this way a little ways, a mile and a half, there are 7 more chicken houses, full-bred chicken houses. You go 2 miles to the north of me, and They come in groups of 5 or 7. I'm not anyway, but there's another 7. And then go down the road from there, a half a mile, there are 5 more. I mean, so, and each one of them will hold thousands of chickens, and they clean them out like once every other month. And they got 70. So millions of birds are they're not slaughtered here around me 2 miles, but they're grown. So all of the pesticides, all the vaccinations, all the things, all the dead birds, all the poo from all those birds are just thrown on top of the land for the wind to get, it gets carried into the streams. The EPA were doing weekly studies of organisms in our streams around here. I don't eat chicken anymore. When I saw how they look and how they're raised, and somebody brought me some chickens that were like leftover, the chickens wouldn't even move. I put them in the pen, they wouldn't even move. They looked like ducks. They wouldn't even move. They were bred for their breast, and they wouldn't even move. So he brought me 6 of these things, right? And I put them out in my old duck pond cage thing because I had a nasty rooster who wasn't agreeable. So I was going to get these chickens used to being around, blah, 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 and I was going to mix them in with the other ones. They wouldn't even get up and eat. I would go over to the door, open up the thing, and I'd throw the chicken stuff out, right, like I do to my other ones. They'll go running, having a good time. These chickens wouldn't even get up to go eat. I swear. One starved to death. I was like, I would pick it up and try to move it. It would sit there. And I found out later on it was because the food I was giving it wasn't the same food they were used to. And of course they were fed in troughs. So I tried to be nice and like this. So a couple of them got up and would walk around, but they all ended up dying because they refused to eat. I put water containers like the other chickens. They didn't know how to drink out of a water container. I didn't know. So I'm watching these chickens, and they look like ducks, and they were malformed. Their feet were weird, and they couldn't walk. And I was like, oh my God. And people only knew what they were eating. And these have been shot up with hormones and you name it. And so the guy, he calls me on the phone, and he just lives over there. I've known him for years. And he's like, well, did you butcher those chickens? And I said, I'm not into butchering much. And he goes, well, I'll come over and help you. And I said, don't bother. I said, they killed themselves. He said, what? You mean you didn't pluck them? And I said, no, I gave them to the cats, and I took them to the woods and said, here. I wouldn't eat them because they were Frankenstein chickens. I mean, when I looked at them, they weren't even chickens. They were nothing that I had ever seen in my life of being in the woods. I've hunted, I've trapped, I've never seen a critter like that. And you're telling me you want me to eat it? Well, they send them off. And I mean, they got big breasts with all this. And I'm like, yeah, I know. They're chickens raised specifically for the breast meat. I get it. But they don't look like chickens. I don't know what they are, but I'm not eating it. And people who go get a chicken breast, I mean, I was bad about it. Oh, man, I love a chicken breast. I love the chicken breast. I can't throw up enough of what I've seen over the, when I saw them. I was like, and people, I'm telling you, go ahead, eat your chicken, eat your, but if you only knew how they were grown and what they lived through and how they are in these chicken houses, there is no room for these chickens to move. They can get up and waddle, move around. They are so thick that they literally will kick the chickens out of the way to walk in amongst them like footballs. Boom. I mean, and the people who run them, they're like, oh, that's just a chicken. Boom. And some of these crazy redneck assholes will even go so far as they like, how far can you kick a chicken? Live chickens. I mean, oh, okay. That reminds me, though, of a funny story. Let's change this out. I'm going to do a funny story that I'm going to let y'all go. I haven't had anything to eat. I'm sitting here and I'm realizing I swear to God, Marie, I could smell that. I could smell that, that fried rice. Ever since you said, I'm like, but anyway, but the chickens, which are ready to be on the plate in 6 to 8 weeks. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. It's unbelievable. I mean, and these, I used to build the chicken houses, okay, as a carpenter. And it's good business. I'm proud that these folks have a job. I'm just saying, not me. I'm not eating them anymore. I mean, I've worked on hog farms, and I don't eat pork much anymore either. Once in a while. Now, beef, cows, blah, blah, I go to a place where I know where the beef is purchased from. And these guys purchase, it's a local butcher shop. And they buy Western, grass-fed beef. Delicious. I don't eat much, but once or twice a month, I'll have me some beef. And not ground either, but sliced. Because you don't want these assholes. I'm sorry, what these people have put in. Well, anyway, now I grew up on a carnival. The carnival's been sold. I thought I was going to retire on the carnival and travel through the summer and make a little extra money. All that just went. I thought it was going to be a disc jockey. I'm not that either. Of course, now I'm going to try to start YouTube and doing some other things, but I used to work radio, top 40, AM, WGRA down here in South Georgia, travel in time, blah, 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 anyway, back in the day in the 80s. Actually 70s too. Well, and then the 90s, but that was FM. So anyway, the carnival used to travel around the South. It was called, we bought those birds years ago with some Rhode Island Reds. They grew so fast, the adult size, and still had feathers down on them. Yep, Rhode Island Reds. Yeah, I got 2 Rhode Island Reds in my chickens right now. I got 12 chickens right now. I got 4 black sex links, 2, maybe it's 6 black sex links. I got a Dominecker. I got this white chicken. I don't know where it come from. I've hatched some of my own eggs. It's just white. I don't know where it come from because I don't have white chickens. But anyway, but I did have a Dominecker. But Rhode Island Reds, the black sex links, which the eggs are huge. I want to get some anacondas, but I don't have them. No, I used to have a couple of manas, but I don't anymore. I went off for the weekend. One weekend, I had 27 chickens. I went off to do a puppet show for a day and a half, camp out, come back home. I had somebody check on them, feed everything was good. I'm not going to starve my chickens. When I got home, every single chicken was gone. The gate was shut, no holes in the fence, and I spent big money. I got a Cadillac chicken pen. I mean, I've seen bobcats try to break in it, didn't break in it. But when I got home from that 2-day trip, no chickens. No, I thought about foxes. There would have been feathers. There would have 27 chickens, not one feather, not one nothing. I went out in the woods. I checked. I looked. The gate was locked up at the top of the driveway. So if you wanted 27 chickens, you'd had to walk down here, almost a quarter mile, and then tote them back up to whatever vehicle you had. The gate wasn't messed with. Those chickens were gone. Not one feather out of place. There was no scuff marks, even in the dirt. I've tracked people before. That's the only thing I can think, Marie. Somebody must have stolen them, and it must have been my ex-wife. That's all I can figure. But I still do. I mean, I do stupid things like, if I want to see if somebody's been to my place, when I pull up my driveway and I lock my gate and I put the chain through the gate around the trees and everything. You ain't getting in. So I'll pull my truck up far enough, and I'll take a branch or something and swish it across the ground, so that when I get home, one of the first things I do is look to see if the ground that I swooshed has been disturbed in any way. Because when I walk away from it, I take my feet prints out. Plus, I know what my shoes look like. So if somebody's been to just my gate, not my house, if somebody's been to my gate, I can tell by the footprints. None. Because I did all that. And I didn't see any tracks around the chicken pen. It was almost like the aliens come down and just sucked them right up, man. I'm telling you. But the only thing I could say, it was my ex-wife, but there would have been feathers. I can't go out there and grab one of them chickens without a couple of feathers coming off. The place looked like it had been vacuumed. No feathers anywhere. But I got chickens now. I got 12 at this particular time. My rooster attacked me, and I killed him literally by accident. But I was trying to keep the bastard from spurring me again. He spurred me twice, and I had fallen on the ground, and he was headed for my face with both spurs out, and I hit him with a piece of plastic pipe, broke his neck. I didn't eat him though. Couldn't. Took him out in the woods and gave him to the critters. But I miss my rooster though. But anyway, so the thing about chickens though, so down here in the South, the carnival played a little town right on it's called Florala, Alabama. And every year, they might still have it. It's like a Founders Day celebration. And I'm talking about relatives would come from across the country back to Florala to do this Founders Day. The whole town shut down. It was great. And as a carnival, man, we started working at 9 in the morning, and we worked until 2 in the morning. And it was a really good weekend, and we all came home rich. Well, this particular year, it was kind of slim in the afternoon. So I had come from here in Georgia, drove all the way over there to Florala, the other side of Dothan, Alabama, as a reference point to somebody in the States. But it's only like 12 miles from the Florida border. And so big lake, nice place. So I tell the folks I'm working for, they'd had about a 2-hour brunch, right? There was a few stragglers on the midway, but all this commotion was going on in town. So they tell me, Dave, you go take your break now, be back in an hour and a half or so, and before the crowd gets done downtown. Cool. So off I go downtown, and I see all this commotion in the sort of the center of town. There's a street that comes in this way, and then the main road. And as I'm walking up to this T section thing, the fire departments are having a water war. Who can shoot the other one with the water hose, right? So that gets done. That's really cool. And I'm walking up to the restaurant, and they announce, all right, now we're going to have the chicken contest. Huh? All right, we're going to have the chicken throw. Everybody ready? And I mean, there were people who just, I couldn't believe how many people. You couldn't move. There were so many people. So I'm backed up a little bit, watching what the heck's going on, right? And so on a second story balcony of the whatever building that was on the corner, right? You could hear this squawking, right? When they say, okay, so the first prize, and I mean, they're on a loudspeaker. You can hear it all over town, right? The first prize is a Mossberg 12-gauge shotgun. Okie dokie, Fran, bring up the chicken. And this lady comes out holding this chicken by its feet, right? And it's trying to do this thing and flopping its wings. And he goes, all right, y'all, ready? And the crowd, there's 200-300 people. This lady takes this chicken. She says, all right, everybody, it's time to catch the chicken. And she gives it a toss out over the top of this crowd. Now, this guy is holding this brand new Mossberg 12 gauge shotgun, $400 or $500 gun. If you catch the chicken, you get the gun. 250 people are ripping this poor chicken to shreds. I mean, they're all like, the chicken, there's feathers all over town. People are crawling and fighting, and, you know, chicken, it goes over the top of that. I'm laughing my butt off. What do you people do? And then it tries to run. 3 guys gang tackle it, and one comes up with the head, and another one comes up with the foot, and the other one's going, I got most of it. I got most. There's blood dripping on him, you know, and he gets the shotgun. They did this like 7 or 8 times. And it was a shotgun, it was a this, there was a lot. I mean, these people went freaking crazy. Throw that chicken out over that audience. And I was like, oh my God. Oh my God. And when they're all done, you know, they're all scratched up and patting each other on the back. Man, I almost had that chicken. I mean, you know, and they talked about it for the whole year till the next time they did it. That, I swear to God, it's a true story. Florala, Alabama. Now, it's been a good 25 years ago that happened. But it did happen. And I don't know if they still have the founders there. It's a beautiful lake that's there. I want to say it's Lake Jackson, but I'm not sure. It actually borders up on the Florida-Alabama line there in the Panhandle. A pretty little town, you know, but crazy people, what they do for a chicken. I mean, just it was hilarious, but I hated it because they're ripping this chicken to shreds, you know. But anyway, I digress. Well, it's almost 5 o'clock here in my time. And I'm going to go find something to eat, scramble an egg or something. It's been lovely talking with you, Miss Marie Wade, as always. Because I know how chickens can be territorial and they don't really travel far away from their roots. No, they don't. They really don't. I mean, even when I can't let my chickens out because there's too many hawks and a bunch of owls around here. And so, you know, they don't last long. But when I did let them out, you know, they just stayed around the garden, around the house, a little bit down here in the woods, and they always come back up and went in their little perchy roost thing. Yeah, absolutely. Oh, yeah. One of the people that was down in Marie says, then they go to church on Sunday after cheating and promoting inhuman acts. This was nothing. This wasn't a big deal. It was just a chicken. And they didn't think anything at all about it being inhuman. If the chicken died, that was just, oh, well, they gave it to the black lady who took it home and made fried chicken for the family and the young'uns. I mean, they weren't, now I got to say, they weren't cruel, but the act of catching the chicken made it cruel. I mean, you know, they were petting it. One guy caught one of the chickens, but it was like the lesser prize and nobody wanted it. So when he caught the chicken, that was it. He got the chicken and the prize, but he took the chicken. He was petting and blah, blah, blah. And somebody even said, hey, have you got another prize? This chicken's still alive. And he was like, no, I'm taking this chicken home with me. You know, so, you know, they weren't all bad folk, but it was just a circumstance. And I guess I've been in little towns in Alabama and Mississippi and Georgia too, but I gotta say, some of the places I've been in Alabama, on the Mississippi line, about in the middle of the state, Abbeville, anyway, Butler, some little towns up in there. Even to this day, them folks, they give rednecks a good name. They're so bad. I mean, I don't know. They're like Deliverance. You know, Sue Reed bending the guy over. And I mean, these folks are nutso. They're not on the same planet as we are. I'm telling you, they're not. I'm not a vegetarian either, but I choose what I'm going to eat. I mean, if I know that sure enough, it's a free-range chicken, I just don't do chicken anymore because of what they do around here, you know? Same thing. If you've ever went and worked on a hog farm and cleaned the hog, blah, 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 blah. Hogs ain't stupid. Pigs ain't stupid. And I just can't do it. A cow, they chew their cud, blah, blah, blah. I eat beef. Now, I love shrimp. I love seafood. And that's a whole different little ballywag, in my opinion. But it's still a live critter. And I'm trying as a sovereign being of the universe. If I don't have to kill it to eat, then I'm not. If I can find a substitute, but there again, when I eat leaves or whatever, that's a live plant. Where do you get off on live versus death, right? But it has to do with how the animal is treated. For example, I have a friend of mine with Native American ancestry history, and I mean close in, he's like half. But those in the Native American tribes won't just shoot anything. They will ask in their hunting for the animal to give itself up. So my grandson, adopted, he was going hunting for the first time. And I said, Big John, I said, listen to me. We talked about Indian stuff. I said, he says, I don't know if I could shoot a deer. You know, I've shot guns and stuff, but I just don't know if I could kill, you know? And I'm like, John, when you go hunting, if the deer turns, you ask Creator to ask the animal, and the animal will know. And I said, you ask if it's willing to give its life for you. I said, it's a respect thing. They know why they're here. They get eaten by bobcats and mountain lions and, you know, whatever. And I said, but just keep the respect in mind. So about a week later, he calls me on the phone and he goes, Pops, he says, I got my first deer. And he goes, you are not going to believe it. I said, what's that? And he said, my buddy over there, he says, he was trying to shoot him this and that and the other thing. And he said, I remember what you said. And he said, I'm looking through my scope and I could see that deer. And he said, I closed my eyes for a second. And I said, Creator, if this deer will give itself up to me, you know. And he said he looked back down the barrel, looked in the sight, and he said, and the deer shook its head and walked off. And he said, Pops, he said, that shook me. He said, but I was starting to snicker a little bit, and I heard a shot, and then I seen the deer run away. He said, a buddy of his, cousin, whatever, in the deer stand down on base. He said, so I looked back in my deer sight, and he said, there was a 6-point buck who was standing there just like this. And I said, yeah. And he said, I did the same thing. I asked. And he said, the deer looked straight at me, Pops, and nodded his head. And he said, he stood there. He didn't move. He stood right there until I took the shot. And it was one shot and he dropped. He said, Pops, he said, I believe you. He said, because the first one was a doe and it had little ones behind it. But the other one, he said, and there was so much commotion, there was gunshot. He said, that buck should have moved. He said, but I asked and I looked, and he said, the deer agreed. And he goes, he said, you were right. I can't explain it. He said, but Pops, you were right. And he hunts with a purpose, not just for killing. And it makes all the difference. And every time he's went hunting with his buddies, he's always brought home at least one deer on the season, where other guys have gotten skunked. And there are deer jumping all over the place out in some of these places. I mean, you got to be blind to miss them. But the thing is, that's just it. John took the time to ask. And he's always gotten a deer. So now I will take deer meat, because that, especially something that's taken like that. So I'm not a vegetarian. I have eaten crawdads and oysters and mussels and, you know. The bad news with that is that our streams are so polluted with all this chicken crap You can't eat the crawdads anymore. You can't eat the mussels if you find them in the stream. And a lot of the fish have sores on them because of the crap that from the chicken poo that are going into streams that don't run as much as they used to. If it rained normal and the rivers ran like they used to, but they haven't. And so when it does rain, it washes all the gunk into the small holes, and then that collects, and anything that could have survived is now dead. These little pools on the river, there's nothing in them. Not even frogs, no tadpoles, no minnows, nothing. The river's dead, and it's a shame. It used to be full of life. We used to go back in the river when I first moved down here, 4 or 5 of us with our cane poles and some worms, and take a case of beer between us and all around. Spend the whole day down the river. Catch a few fish, have them right down there, mix up some hush puppy mix and eat it right there on the river. Yum, yum. Ain't no fish no more. All gone. No water. All gone. Can't even get frog legs. All gone. But I'm still praying for a better tomorrow. There's going to be a better tomorrow. And if it takes Mother Earth throwing some of these idiots off of this planet, bye, y'all. Either that or take me and leave the idiots, you know. But on my sole contract, I've been told, when I was on the river for 4 days with no water, food, I was told that I'm going to be here when other people are thrown off this earth. I'm supposed to be here to show people how to live with the earth. I'm supposed to be here to help heal the earth from all of these wrongs. I'm here, folks. So, and I wish you all could visit. I wish I could come visit you. And Marie, I know you're in Australia, the northern. Trying to remember. Anyway, I wish I could come visit every one of you, sit down and have a meal, have coffee, have a smoke, whatever, just hang out. Even bears are starting to starve and more human attacks. Yep. What is KS? Eastern side. KS? Help me, help me. What's KS? Typo. I meant RJ. Or whatever. Okay. Yeah, attacks. We used to have a lot of I'm sorry. Yeah, we do used to have panthers here as well. The woods swamp in my backyard is about 2 miles wide. But from where I live, a little bit north, but all the way down to Florida and into northern Florida, north of Tallahassee, a lot of land. A lot of land. And if it ain't wet, if it rains just right, it will be a swamp. So nobody puts houses there. You know, you visit, you swim, and you leave. But I mean, you know, it's not good for boat traffic. It's the South Georgia River. So, but there's a lot of land nobody's living on. And there should be possums, raccoons, bobcats. The Florida / Georgia panther used to travel through here, and they make a god awful noise when they scream. I mean, there's a place just a few miles north of me, Panther Creek, and it was named because of the panthers on the creek. But anyway, no panthers. Nobody's seen a panther. What up, old man from Tampa? Light Gold 007. You're from Tampa? I'm from Tampa. Where are you from? LT Gold? Oklahoma City originally. I grew up, when you open up the drapes on the picture window, there was the Anheuser-Busch sign. I lived 7 blocks from Busch Gardens. I mean, when we moved to Tampa in the early, well, it was 59 when we moved down from Ohio. Busch Gardens was literally a little gardens on the corner of the brewery. They had a lot of property in the back. Now I think they've even torn the brewery down, and it's just Busch Gardens plaything. But I used to work there, parking cars in the wintertime. I mean, you know, I made $12 an hour in 1972 parking cars for Busch Gardens, you know. But anyway, so as kids, we used to sneak in with the bus tours and then go into where the people would throw money in the ponds and the fountains and stuff. We'd wait till somebody would go around the corner, and then we'd do a little bit of fishing and collect pennies, quarters, nickels, dimes, wherever we could, get it up enough money, sneak back out of Busch Gardens and go down to Sulphur Springs to get in the pool. For $1 a piece, you got in the swim. You got 2 hot dogs and a Coke for $1 a day. What a deal. You know, you got to swim. But anyway, all right, look, I'm hungry. I got to go get something to eat, and it's time for my meds. I love you all truly from my heart, soul, and my soul's heart. I will be back. Marie, take care. LT Gold. Love you too, my brother. Wade, if you're still around. Again, I'm going to figure this out. Maybe we'll do a live one. So I love you, love you, love you. Be careful, be careful. And I got more stuff to talk about later on at another time. Going to end this in 3, 2, and 1.